Isaac?
Welcome, one and all, to PACIFIC414 episode review. Countdown to season 3 of The Orville, or The Orville season 3 New Horizons countdown, however you want to put it. I'm your host, Mike, and joining me tonight is the Admiral.
How are you?
The Nerdporeal Lifeform. So, season 3 is almost upon us. It's a week away.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's been 3.5 years since the last series launched.
So tonight we are going to speculate what we think may or may not happen in this third season. Now, as far as the third season is concerned, we do have 2 episode names already announced. And I will bring those up on screen here shortly. And here we go. But our first episode of season 3 is called Electric Sheep. And if that video clip is any indication, that could be the teaser for episode 1 of season 3. What do you think, Nerdporeal?
Electric Sheep. Well, it makes me think of that famous Philip K. Dick book, the Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which obviously got adapted into Blade Runner. So I'm assuming it has something to do with AI, whether it be Kalon or maybe something else.
Very true. We don't know what it involves, really. It could be a scenario where Isaac is dreaming up the whole thing that we're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
It could be where he's in a shutdown process, and who knows?
Yeah, I think Isaac. I don't know if I'm assuming the episode will be an Isaac episode, maybe Claire too. I mean, I'm assuming that what we saw in that initial opening or that initial tease that Seth gave us a few months ago to kind of soften the blow of delaying the show 3 months was. I mean, I always thought that was what was his name? What's the older son's name again? Marcus.
Marcus.
I thought that was Marcus dreaming because it was following him. So maybe it's not. Maybe it's Isaac. Maybe Isaac dreams that he's gonna eat. He's gonna bite. He's gonna bite Marcus's face off, kind of like the Demogorgon in Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you do see things from the full trailer that we received and the little teaser that we received where the Orville itself has been upgraded from previous iterations, and it's gone through its own refit. Matter of fact, I'll bring up some images if I can find any.
I mean, it's kind of like when the Enterprise first encountered the Borg and Q Who, they had to get their weapons upgraded and prepare for the inevitable meeting. And it's the same with this. The Kalon are basically the Borg; they're the big bad of the Orville universe. Well, for now, at least.
And it could be similar to DS9's The Search after encountering the Jem'Hadar and knowing that the Dominion is real and not
Hmm.
just rumored and a faction that you hear about from other species, but you never actually see them until.
Yeah, that was I mean, that was another great beginning, especially when you see the Defiant for the first time, and Cisco's like, "I have a little surprise for the Dominion." I laughed when I saw that because the previous episode, the Jem'Hadar, they three little warships took out a Galaxy class ship.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of them collided into a nacelle, causing the ship to explode. But yeah, I mean, they were a threat, and that's how I feel about the Kalon, because you see the Kalon doing kamikaze attacks like the Jem'Hadar. So there is
Yep.
so obviously, I mean, the battle in Identity Part 2 reminded me of a Dominion battle in episode in season 6 or even season 7 of DS9.
Yep. And Tom Constantino actually had an interesting image come up. I'll go ahead and bring it up here in just 1 second. But we actually get a look at one of the fighters that are going to be on the Orville this season.
That's a fighter, or
Yes,
no, the one above or the one below?
it's the same thing.
Oh, it's the same thing.
Yeah, this is it
Oh,
on the shuttle deck, the flight deck, and then this is the full mock-up.
ooh, okay, I see it now. Little mini Orvilles,
Mm-hmm.
little mini Orvilles. Okay, I mean, yeah, Babylon 5 had fighters.
Yeah,
Babylon 5 had fighters, and Star Trek Discovery had what did they have? They had
too many shuttlecrafts, more than a starship would actually be able to carry.
uh, and drones and all these robots that I guess existed in another universe. In another universe. So
And also, while we're here on Tom Constantino's Twitter account, he had some information. Let me see if I can find it here. I actually have to scroll down. Scroll down to that information. Let's see, what's this? It. Yes, this is the information right here. I'm going to go ahead and highlight it, but he is saying that next Thursday, season 3 premieres on Hulu at 9 p.m. Pacific time, and that would be midnight Eastern time.
on June 1st. Oh, okay.
Yes, yes,
Interesting. Hmm.
yeah. June 2nd for the East Coast, June 1st for the West Coast, and probably
Hmm.
June 1st for you in the Central Time Zone.
Yep. Looks about right. So I'm guessing they're doing one episode. They're doing one episode. I think they're only doing one episode for per week.
Yes, one episode per week, and the episode names that we have so far are only two of them: Electric Sheep, which will be the season premiere, and then the next one will be Shadow Realms, which I find pretty interesting considering Bruce Rockseitler is actually in an episode this season.
Yeah. Yep. Captain Sheridan himself. He's gonna be fighting shadows again.
Mm-hmm. So one of
Maybe Earth
the
will go. Maybe Earth will go bad too. He's in the wrong franchise. Then he should go to the new Trek franchise. Earth is bad in that franchise.
it's been bad since Kurtzman took over.
Yep, Federation are discriminatory, and yeah, it's. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk about that. Let's keep going talking about the Orville.
Yes. So one of our talking points for tonight, the new character, Charlie Burke. What do you think she's going to be all about?
Oh, I think she's just going to be another character that's going to, I think she's going to start off, kind of rough around the edges. She's probably going to speak out of turn, and then she's gonna grow and become more likable. At least that's what I hope. That's what I hope we see. Because it's a trope now in television and everything, and in science fiction. Like, we just have to have this humor with characters speaking out of turn. And I mean, New Trek is Strange New Worlds is suffers greatly from this. Kind of always takes me out of it. So I think it's gonna be a little bit of the same, and I think Mercer's gonna eventually, say, "Hey, can't do that." But who knows? I mean, I don't know anything about this character. I just know that she's gonna be the new navigator.
Nobody knows a darn thing about this new character. She's completely new. She hasn't been with the Orville at all. She wasn't there in season 1. She wasn't there in season 2.
Maybe she's gonna maybe she'll be like the straight man to Malloy's, goofy side. Who knows?
You never know.
Or maybe she's like Lamar. Maybe she'll go along with what he's doing. Maybe she'll like, ha 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 ha, ooh, awesome, wacky stuff like that.
Well, I do have another little teaser that I saw the other day, which might give us some sort of idea about her character and Kelly's role in this season as well. So here we go.
Gather your team. Surrender or you will die. Complete the mission at all costs.
Can't shake him! Hang on to something!
Sounded by the book to me. I like her already.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how quickly fans take to, Charlie Burke, and also what happens with Bortus and the Mocklins this season.
Well, what happened last time? Last time they were trying to forcefully relocate all the females that were hidden, all the female Mocklins that were hidden on that planet, on that world, in this nebula or whatever it was. I don't remember exactly. And of course, there's a fight. So of course, that's going to lead to more bad blood between them and the rest of the Union. So and I'll give Spock the credit for saying this, I think there's going to be more and more tensions and perhaps possible secession. Heck, maybe they'll even, I mean, it might seem impossible, but heck, maybe they'll even do what the Romulans did with the Dominion War and not and come to some understanding with the Kaylon and stay out of it, stay neutral.
It's not a non-aggression pact.
Yeah, it's a fake.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that could happen. We know that Bortus and Clyden have their issues with each other, and
yeah, they're gonna break up. Clyden's gonna keep doing his crap, and they're gonna break up. I think
they're gonna break up. And who do you think gets custody of Topa?
That might be a plot point. I don't know. Might be a fight for it. Who knows? I'd like to think Bortus might get it, but he might not.
He might not because he's serving on a Union starship.
Mm-hmm. And Clyden's more of the mother type of role. Mm-hmm. So, I think it would go to Clyden.
Yeah.
I think Topa spends more time with Clyden compared to Bortus. So he's probably going to choose to go with Clyden. And they're going to go back to Mockless.
Which would make sense.
Yeah. I mean, Clyden is pro Mockless, by hook or by crook. You're not going to change his mind, regardless. I love his actor. I love Chad L. Coleman. He was great in The Walking Dead. He was great in The Expanse. They did him dirty in The Expanse, in my opinion. Yeah. I think, or maybe they're going to continue to build tension. Clyden's going to do something stupid. Either that or. But I think, Bortus is going to have to, choose between the Union, between Mercer serving on the Orville or going back to his people. And that's, I think, going to be a compelling arc if they go that direction.
I honestly like that. I think they really should explore that route. You know,
I mean, they keep building up to it. I mean, there was that same episode, that the last episode with the Mocklins, like, I think in that very episode, or maybe it was another episode, I think it was MacFarlane or Mercer or someone said that, why do we even have them in the Union in the first place? And someone said, well, because of their weapons, because of their proficiency with developing weapons. And so that's kind of why. So it's like a mutual reason. So I can thank Spock for pointing that one out too.
Yes. And you think we're gonna see Alara at all this season, or hear a mention of her?
I hope so. I like Alara. I think she was one of the more relatable characters, despite the fact that she can knock down walls with just one finger. And I guess that's what happens when you live in 5 times the gravity, like in Dragon Ball. You're super duper strong, ridiculously strong and stuff. So I hope so. I want to see her. I want to see her dad, Robert Picardo. Who doesn't want to see Robert Picardo play, a nerdy old guy?
And to be honest, I wouldn't mind seeing the scene between Alara and Talia.
Yeah, I don't think they've not shared a scene together yet. We did see Alara last season in the alternate reality where she was running her own secret base, kind of like the Yavin base in Star Wars. It was a very Star Wars looking base. And and the way that they were attacked, the way the Kaylon attack made me think of Empire a little bit. So this season looks like it's going to go deeper into a Star Wars direction. I mean, we see them flying through a city. It made me think of Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, in the beginning of the movie, with when they're chasing that bounty hunter, when Anakin and Obi-Wan are chasing the bounty hunter across the city.
And we even see them going through an asteroid field and, dealing with the Kaylon left and right.
Yeah. Yeah, they're being chased. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Obviously, the Kaylon regrouped last season, so we'll see what their next move is. They're probably going to look for allies because, I mean, they got the Kaylon. I mean, they got the Krill to work with them, so they're going to try and look for allies themselves. We promise we won't kill you. We won't exterminate you. We'll leave you alone. We'll take care of everybody else.
It was to say that the Kaylon wouldn't get in contact with the Caldon.
Exactly.
The species that kept Ed and Kelly in their zoo.
Yeah, that could absolutely happen. And they're the only ones that have transporter technology.
That's true. And I do want to say hello to Leia Rose. She says hello to the both of us. And as far as Ed and Kelly's relationship, do you think they're going to officially get back together where they might remarry, or
no?
It's just going to be more of a friendship and also having each other's back while on duty.
Yeah, I think their relationship's going to grow. It's going to build up, and I don't know if they're going to make another season after this. I don't think they've announced another season, but I don't think they're going to get back together like that in this season. If they do, I'll be surprised.
Yep.
And if I'm wrong, well, I'm wrong. I think it's just going to build up. Their relationship's going to get stronger because of the stuff that they're going through. They're not going to have time to really go on to have a relationship because of all the stuff that's going on. They're building up they're gearing up for war.
Yeah, you're going deep into Krill space. The Kaylon are out there, and the Kaylon want revenge.
They want revenge, and they're probably going to they're probably going to start taking like planets, colonies, and I think what's going to happen is the Union's going to be stretched thin. There's going to be a lot of tension building up to the final parts of the season. I think there's going to be a big battle, and at the end of the end of the season, there's going to be a big battle. I don't know if it's going to end the war. If there is even a war, I don't know. If there is a declaration of war, we'll have to see. All we know is that they tried to attack Earth and that they're building up defenses at the end of last season.
And from what we see in the season 3 opening credits and title, we see that the Union has been busy upgrading their fleet.
Yes. Oh yeah. So we're probably gonna. What I want to see is I want to see more ships. I want to see more captains. I want to see the other captains. I want to see other ships. I want this university to be even more fleshed out. And I hope not all the ships look exactly alike. That's one concern that I have. I don't want them to pull a Star Trek Picard, where they literally just copied and pasted one ship across like an entire screen.
You want to see the Orville, especially for season 3, have ships that have been developed as specific warships for defense.
Yeah. I'd like to see what the flagship of this fleet is, what their version of the Enterprise is. Maybe they'll call it the Yorktown, like the original. That was supposed to be the original ship in Star Trek. That'd be funny. I think that'd be funny if they did that. Would they?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, you never know with Seth. He throws in little hints here and there, and
yeah,
it's like, he threw in a Top Gun reference in Identity Part 2, just a walk in the park, Kazansky.
Yeah.
And
I need to rewatch Top Gun. And then I'm gonna go see the movie this weekend.
As am I. Looking forward to it. Yep. I mean, this season there's a lot of questions. We won't know until we see the actual episodes. And another thing about this season, because I'm looking over on IMDb right now, is some of the episodes are listed at 44 minutes long. Some of them are listed at 47 minutes long, and so we're getting a good chunk of episode here.
Yeah, they said it's gonna be like 55-minute long episodes, kind of like a typical Netflix episode of whatever, Stranger Things, Daredevil, typical streaming service show. They're not bound by the rules of television. Airing something. It's not the 43-minute rule like most hour-long shows are. So, but I like Leigh Rose says Isaac will be key factor in the upcoming war. I agree, and I think there's going to be a redemption arc. We're going to be beginning a redemption arc, because we barely see Isaac in the last season. Because right after Identity Part 2, like the only time we really see Isaac was in the finale, and he was bad guy in the finale. He was the bad guy in the finale because he was part of another ship, and he didn't have the that human connection like he did on the Orville. At least it's implied. So it's because of people like Claire, and of course her 2 children, was the reason why Isaac ultimately turned against the Kaylon in the first place, whereas in this other reality he did not. He basically turned right away and carried out the will of the Kaylon.
Yeah, he did. And if anybody would like to join the Admiral and myself, I have posted the link in the chat. It's pinned up to the top. You're more than welcome.
So go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, brother.
No, I was trying to fill in the. Well, here's one idea I had. Remember the episode right after Identity where they encountered, Gordon encounters his friend that he knew that was imprisoned by the Krill, and he teams up with the girl with the orange blood and stuff. Maybe they'll use them as a weapon. Maybe they'll try to. Maybe their orange blood will be used as a weapon to fight the Kaylon. I could see that coming back. I think they would do that. Now, if this was New Trek, they'd completely forget about it and come up with some half-ass contrived, Deus Ex Machina for their story. But I could see the Orville bringing certain things back, certain elements back.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think? Do you think the orange-blooded girl that
I could see it happening, but I don't see it happening for the Union. I can see it happening against the Union.
Oh,
The Krill would have knowledge of the fact that once their blood's exposed to air, they're explosive, so they would pretty much use them as suicide bombers.
yeah, that's true.
And another character I want to speculate about for season 3 is John Lamar. What kind of character development do you think we're going to see from him this season?
I think John is going to. He's right now. He's chief engineer. So honestly, I think he's gonna be taking. I think he's gonna be taking more responsibility. He's gonna be He's gonna be even a bigger part of the solution for whatever issues that come up. Kind of like the way Or maybe he gets promoted, kind of like Geordi in TNG.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly don't know. I mean, maybe he'll try and I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't really. I mean, I don't see much else. I mean, he's chief engineer now. Maybe he gets promoted again. I don't know.
And maybe with him being chief engineer, we'll find out about the upgrades that were made to the Orville.
Yeah. Yeah, the refit or whatever. Yeah, we could see that. Maybe they'll go through their own issue, like in motion picture. Maybe they go to quantum drive at a bad time, and then woof, wormhole, belay that phaser order, fire photon torpedo. Oh my gosh, Spock, you're not on board yet. You're not on board after the wormhole.
Yeah. How you doing, Spock?
How's it going, gentlemen?
It's Spunk.
I joined you at a great time.
I don't care if he's calling himself Spunk tonight. I'm still calling him Spock. So
From that old Star Trek show.
Old Star Trek, but you were going to go see the motion picture director's cut in the theater,
I did.
weren't you?
I saw it. I already saw it. I loved it. It was meant to be seen in the theater. I loved every minute of it. It made me think, why can't Star Trek be like this?
And the reason why I asked, and you've already confirmed it, is my next question to you guys and to the chat is, do you think we're going to see any similar shots of the Orville that we saw in the motion picture?
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
I mean, if they don't, I'll be surprised, but they got it at this point.
Yeah, I'm expecting a lot of callbacks. I'm hoping that Brian's wish comes true with William Shatner actually becoming a part of the show.
I hope so too. I mean, I want him to be part of the show. I want Larry David to play an admiral that will disagree with Ted Danson's admiral just because they don't like each other.
And we're looking like we're gonna see more of Ted Danson in the season, so it's gonna be funny.
Yeah, and I want him to say to Admiral Larry, "Will you shut up?"
I had the chance to ask Commander Lamar himself what we might expect from him in the next season, and this was over an Instagram Live, and he had like only a couple of viewers, so people were able to pop some questions in, and he said that you can expect a love story possibly for him, and also another one for Scott Grimes' character Gordon.
And welcome to the tab that shouldn't be, and also to Phil McCracken.
Maybe I don't know if I'm not sure if it would be Lamar or Malloy that will. One of them is going to try and date Charlie Burke, I think.
Yeah,
I don't know which
Possibly.
one. Well, I mean, Malloy sits right next to her, so maybe Malloy.
And yeah, it is like it is just a rumor, but I mean, it's coming from the actor himself. There is possibly a story for Gordon himself, because everyone's asking, like, is Gordon gonna find love, or is he gonna finally find love? And it's possible. It's possible.
No, I forget. He deleted that girl, right, from the phone.
From the phone, I mean, the phone is still probably there, so. But I think that honestly, that episode was like to really show you what's inside Gordon's head and where he's at right now, and he's lonely. You know, he's a lonely person, and the only one that really keeps him company is Seth's character, Mercer, and Commander Lamar.
And that brings me to something I've been speculating about ever since we saw that episode where Gordon used the phone to recreate, everything that was on the phone and get a idea of who the person was. Well, are we going to see a descendant of that person in this season, possibly? And have Gordon taken it back, thinking it's the girl that he met in the holodeck, but it's an actual descendant.
Imagine
Yeah,
that.
she'll be like Brent Spiner. She'll be like Brent Spiner. Everyone in her family looks like her.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a callback to one of my favorite episodes in the show for sure. I'd like that.
I thought your favorite episode of the show was Primal Urges. all that hot action in the environmental simulator. That was a great episode, by the way.
That was
even with the humor, but him going on that mission trying to save those people was a very poignant one. That was a very poignant gut punch.
Yeah. You can only take so many, and there's still so many that are going to be left behind to die.
Yeah.
And
so I'm curious if we're going to see that one woman again, the Krill woman, the one that was in she was disguised as a human. She shows up in the first episode.
And
Malloy tries to talk to her. Malloy tries to talk to her, and she's just like, I had no idea that was the same actress. That was the big twist of that episode.
Well, I was just going to say, are we going to see anything from Nothing Left on Earth excepting fishes? Because that was the last time we saw her.
Well, you gotta remember, there's still that uncertainty if Ed and Kelly can still really get together, because there's Ellie's point of view where she's like, well, we're working together, it's gonna be a distraction, you're never gonna want to send me down on an away team because you're too close to me, we have to actually work as professionals. So I mean, it's a weird thing with the Krill woman. It's possible that her and Mercer could eventually become a couple, or it's uncertain, maybe Ed and Kelly are going to become a couple again. So she's always been an interesting character, despite her interest with Ed Mercer's character. It's the fact that how different she acts from all the other Krill, because they're all bloodthirsty, but she's like a teacher. She teaches children, so she's a lot more laid back. I'm really interested to know more about her character, because the more we go into her character, the more we learn about the Krill, and the Krill is very vague. I say in the Orville, we only know a little bit about them, the Book of Avis, and that's pretty much it.
Yep.
Avis, the car rental. They worship a car rental agency.
You don't know how tempted I was.
They said that. I forget they said that, right? They said that in the.
They did, but you don't know how tempted I was to get a pamphlet from Avis just to do it for my live reaction to the first episode of season 3.
We get to see a pretty sick statue in the trailer of Avis.
Yeah,
that's
that
Avis,
was awesome.
And the Tad That Shouldn't Be says, I missed the early part of the show, but did you guys mention the rumor that season 3 is the last one?
And if you don't mind, I don't mind speaking on that. That rumor stemmed from the show being delayed for 2 years, and everyone has been worried that this is going to be the last season, because technically this should be season 5. But, I mean, I really don't think this is the last season, and this is just personal opinion and speculation from what I've seen the actors talk about. None of them have been... Seth MacFarlane said one thing on an Instagram post, that he said, I sincerely hope this isn't the last time we head to space. But I don't think that meant like, oh, this is the last season. He really wants to do this again, is what I understood from that comment. So
Well,
if they still have that passion, they might still want to make more seasons.
The other reason for that is apparently Scott Grimes is going to be part of another show. He's going to be starring in another show. That's what drummed up the speculation further. So either he's leaving the show or he's going to be, they're going to be working around it.
I would hope they would.
Hashtag Seth MacFarlane show.
It's happened a lot, even in Star Trek. I'm sure that most likely will work around it.
I have a theory about what Phil McCracken said. Because, after I did my research for my Orville video, this was around 2015 when he proposed a new Trek show. I think they got wind of what he was going to try and do and make his own thing. And I think that's why shows like Discovery, the show Discovery, kind of went into production. I think they did that to kind of, I think they're like, hey, we're going to be doing a streaming service and MacFarlane's going to be doing his show. Let's do our own. Let's get our lackey, Alex Kurtzman. He'll make a Trek show. He's done it before. He made those movies. They were successful. Yeah. That's why I think that was the thought that I think went into it. And
that sounds very similar to the creation of Deep Space Nine after seeing the Bible for Babylon 5.
Yeah, some people disagree with that. I'm like, I think they wouldn't have gotten the idea if they didn't look at the Bible for Babylon 5. As much as I love both shows.
It's not. It shouldn't be like a surprise to anybody though that these new Star Trek shows are obviously in competition to the Orville. I mean, let's face it. A lot of the scenes, the CGI, they're all, especially from the newest season of Discovery and Strange New Worlds, to put it more lightly, is a lot of the scenes and the story from that first episode very similar to, I forget the name of the Orville episode where they beam down and try to look like the species and blend in, and you can't do that in Star Trek because there's the Prime Directive. So it's all just trying to compete with the ratings at this point, and they want to flex their non-existent muscles back at the Orville. But
that's what I think it is too.
Yeah.
And I did not watch episode 4 today of Strange New Worlds because I was probably
I don't blame you.
Other stream, and frankly, I'm not very
hooked.
I'm not very keen on keeping watching the show. I mean, I'm probably going to watch it, but people are already talking about it on Twitter, and it's more the same. It's nothing but tragic backstories. They're talking about tragic backstories and no consequences and a lot of back talking because that's what these shows are now. It's an improvement. It's an improvement, but it's just not executed.
I mean, you can just tell
it's
these
all in the
people
execution and the writing.
The only genuine fans a part of that team are the people working on the CGI because they have to take hours of their day to model that Enterprise and the CGI. Those are the people who really pay attention to the detail of the previous shows. But if you're talking about the script, these are things people are just coming up in their apartments just thinking, oh, this would be really cool, because we've never seen this before. But they're not taking into the fact of the continuity and everything like that. That's why we've always seen that.
The last episode was a disease episode, and we've seen that before. I mean, it was basically imagine the naked time, but everybody's everybody is hooked on light, like they're a bunch of bugs.
Yeah, and just correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it's something I've noticed with Star Trek specifically. If you talk about this, if you try to correct it yourself on a tweet or in a video, you instantly get targeted as
you get attacked.
Yeah, you get attacked for being, oh, you're just taking it too seriously. It's just a show, it's a space show. But when this same stuff happens to Star Wars, people take it very seriously, and then they start getting Twitter mobs and all of that. But when it comes to Star Trek, oh, it's always been progressive. That's not the point. It's not about how progressive it's being. It's about, well, one of the things, Star Trek now is just about the status quo. It's not even about spreading the human condition anymore. So that's just gone down the toilet.
It's about dealing with bigotry. Imagine if every episode was like, let that be your last battlefield, but even more on the nose.
Yeah.
Like people always use that as an excuse. People always use that episode as an excuse to say, oh, Trek was always political. as far as I'm concerned, it's two aliens. One's black on one side, one's white on the other. It doesn't necessarily mean racism. It means any type of conflict where two
Mhm.
groups of people live together and they hate each other. I mean, I could see that with the Israelis and the Palestinians. I could see with the Turks and the Armenians.
It's applying
It's
globally.
Poles and the Germans, or Poles and the Russians. It could be anybody. I mean,
And,
they represent anybody. They represent humanity. At our
and the thing
worst.
about Star Trek is that it's always been an allegory for what's going on in the real world.
Yeah,
It hasn't
it
tried
still
to
has to.
force
It still
one
has to
point
fit
of view
within
or
the.
another.
It has to still fit within the context, within the framework of the universe. So you could still when you think about it, you can reflect on it and think, oh, this is allegorical. Let's talking about that. Whereas while you're watching the show, you should still be thinking about what's going on in the context of the show, not just the stupid message.
Mm-hmm.
So
What type of situation has a character or characters been put through throughout the episode? What is the episode trying to tell you? During the 90s, with everything going on in the Czech Republic and Yugoslavia
yeah,
and everything else going on throughout the world,
Mhm.
Bosnia.
Yeah.
There were episodes that were reflecting that, but they didn't make it on the nose. But if you were paying attention to what's going on in the outside world and what
Then
was
you can
going on
connect it.
yeah.
Well, I guess social media kind of ruined that. Now everybody knows everything, everywhere.
Not
I mean, if they're gonna deal with being progressive and dealing with the status quo and racism and all of that, look at the episode Far Beyond the Stars in Deep Space Nine. That's a perfect example of how you can give that off and not have to shove it down someone's throat. At least tell it in an intellectual way where the audience actually absorbs it and feels sorry. Like you actually feel bad about what's happening to Cisco in that episode, because you can understand that's how people were treated in the past. That's just the harsh truth.
And that episode was written by Mark Zickery, and Mark Zickery, who has his own channel, Mr. Sci-Fi. I mean, he was on the Critical Drinker yesterday, and he basically showed his true colors. He's like, I am not a fan of this new Trek at all. This is crap. And he's making his own show. It's called was it called Space Command? It's called Space
Mhm.
Command, and he funds it himself. He gets crowdfunding, and he writes it. He gets actors from DS9, from Voyager, from Babylon 5 to work with him. And it's I've seen bits of an episode, but it's definitely worth the watch because of I mean, to me he's a true Star Trek writer. And he also wrote First Contact from TNG season 4.
all right. So while Brian's being called away, what do you have to say about your speculation or ideas of what might happen in season 3, Spock?
Trying to remember from what me and Brian talked about a while ago. I think the main thing we can easily expect, that's almost at this point like guaranteed, is we're gonna see a conflict between the Moclans and the Union for sure. I mean, that's been hinted at for the first 2 seasons, that eventually they're gonna split and there's gonna be some kind of, I don't know if it's gonna be an all-out scale war, but it could be a tiny conflict that gets a couple ships destroyed in the process. Maybe a couple ships get fully destroyed, and that's what starts the schism between the two, because there might not be like the classic Federation and Klingon war where they're battling for 60 years or whatnot, but in the Moclans and the Union case, it could just be a schism that happens in a year, and then they just stop giving them weapons because they're their major weapon supply. If the Union and the Moclans split, then the Union's going to be very vulnerable. They're not going to have any weapon supply. So that's something I could see them making a story out of for sure. If I had to say anything else, I couldn't really say. I know there's going to be more dealing with the Kalon. I just don't know exactly what we're going to see. Maybe, like you guys said earlier, a redemption arc for Isaac, most likely.
Yeah.
But one thing I do want to comment on is the season 3 leak they gave us. So it was kind of like a prelude, or the video with Marcus running around the ship.
Yes.
That is easily a nightmare scene for sure. That's not happening. That's just something in Marcus's head.
And it makes me think, the first episode of season 3 is called Electric Sheep. So that teaser was probably from the first episode, in my opinion. I could be wrong.
Yeah, it could. No, most likely is. I don't see them really giving us a sneak peek like that. Yeah, I mean, think about that. They wouldn't really release a 2-minute clip from an episode halfway in the season. I mean, that would kind of ruin the tension or the suspense for everybody, because they are releasing it weekly.
Yeah.
So it would make sense that this clip we saw on YouTube was, like you said, from the first episode, Electric Sheep.
Just to, as Brian alluded to, just to make it up to us with it not premiering back on March 10th like it was originally scheduled to. So, that was nice of them. And also, I know next Thursday you had already planned your watch party, but I don't know if you had seen this tweet from Tom Constantino. Now, I showed this earlier in the broadcast, but according to Tom Constantino, you'll be able to watch it at 9 p.m. Pacific time.
On June 2nd. June 1st. Oh, cool.
June 1st, yes.
Perfect. Day early. Okay,
Midnight for me.
So I'm definitely changing my watch party time, everybody, to June 1st at 9 p.m. That's perfect for me. I'm going to update that. But yeah, Tom Constantino is amazing. He is so interactive with each of the fans. He engages with every single one of them. He releases set pictures, what they do for the music. And if you just look at what they do for the music, the composers, all the instruments they use, do you really think they're doing that for Discovery and Strange New Worlds?
No, they're not.
No, I've listened to the tracks myself. A lot of them are electronically produced. They don't do this anymore. This is just how you know how much passion the Orville has. They're taking it to the roots of 90s Star Trek, where everything was composed from organic instruments. At this point, they might as well be shooting the show in film cameras instead of digital, because it's really feeling like 90s Star Trek again, or hell, even the original series. But you guys, being Star Trek fans for a long time, the original series, that whole vibe is really impossible to capture now. It's kind of gone. That 60s touch. If somebody can recreate that, like my boy Vic Montoya, then maybe we can see something like that again. But as for now, the TOS, that whole thing, that is, I have to say, too good for what's in Hollywood right now. They don't know how to compose something like that or make something like that. It's just like the tab that shouldn't be just said. The Doomsday episode is something I don't think we could ever make again. Because if you think about it, if we tried to make that episode again, we'd have to make it so destructive. You see one of the ships blow up, you have to see that people die. That whole episode is about suspense. Nobody really dies except the captain's crew, and he still survives and then basically sacrifices himself. But the whole episode is about suspense. That was the original series, suspense. But 90s Star Trek took it into the realm of action, but it still had that, intellectual storyline going along with it, but a lot more action. You got the Dominion War. So, we never really saw a war on a show before. The closest, I think, was the Klingon War and, the Federation. But we saw the decline of that. We never really saw the full height of that war at all. The Dominion War really painted us a picture of how intense Starfleet battles can really get. And they showed the whole fleet of ships, the Defiance and everything, very similar to what we saw in the intro of season 3, with all of the Orville ships lined up like an armada. They're taking a lot of elements from Star Trek. I love that. And hail Zoltan.
Yes, welcome, Zoltan. It's good to see you. And you mentioned the music of the Orville, and it's something that we talked about during the Nerdporeal Sci-Fi chat several months ago. where we were talking about season 1 and season 2, and how you hear elements of Jerry Goldsmith, you hear elements of John Williams and other
Yeah.
influential
Yeah,
artists,
yeah, I agree.
and I can pretty much guarantee that we're probably going to hear even more cues from different musical artists and musical scores.
We're gonna hear the guy. We're gonna hear the guy that sang "Faith of the Heart." I have faith of the heart. Da, 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 da. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I have to skip that. I have to skip that opening every time I watch it.
I love it. I used to hate it, but then I grew after season 3. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna actually play this.
I'll be honest. I think I'm gonna blame that song for the reason why I didn't watch Enterprise when it was on the air. that and the idea that they were making a prequel was just completely off-putting to me.
Yeah, I won't lie. First time I saw Enterprise in like 2004, I was very skeptical. I'm like, a prequel? This is gonna be very boring because like they don't have teleporters, they don't have any. But little do you know, the crew is just like, the dynamic is very entertaining, especially Tucker. Trip is my favorite character on that show, and what happens to his sister. You feel that throughout the entire series about his loss, and he never has any closure for that. He never sees if his sister's okay. He never knew if his sister was killed. So it's
I wonder what they were referencing. It was something in September, I think, on the 11th day of a certain day of September. I think.
I didn't.
I think that's what they were kind of.
Yep,
I think they were referencing something like that. I don't know, but instead of
possible.
a building, they decided to.
Yeah, all of Florida. It was a really graphic scene.
Just cut a line across the earth.
I don't think I could be wrong, but have we ever seen anything that graphic before in Star Trek? It was kind of graphic. I mean, granted, no blood and everything, but you saw an entire continent get ripped in half, kind of. An entire state just... that was like horrifying, seeing all of those people.
And that
you
was
can even see a
that
stadium.
was a great episode. It was a great character episode for everybody. You felt it, and it made you eager for the journey. They were going to go on a big journey to find whoever was responsible.
Yeah.
And that ended up being, the Xindi season 3. And I really enjoyed that arc. I really enjoyed that. And I loved how season 3 ended. Season 3 ended on a cliffhanger. And then season 4 began. They kind of put aside the temporal Cold War and started really trying to connect with TOS, with the original series. Heck, they even made an episode about Klingon augments to give us some context to why they to give an in-universe context of why they looked why they didn't have the ridges.
Manny Koto was
on the original series.
Manny Koto was the main producer that spearheaded that.
Yeah, season 4. Yeah.
This is something a lot of people don't think about, but everyone knows a sitcom, and they're usually mainly comedic, and they're not meant to be very serious half the time, but they do introduce serious elements that the audience doesn't actually laugh, they listen for once. But if you think about it, that's sort of what Star Trek kind of is. They're not supposed to be every episode, or the entire season is about one character. Like, kind of like, I guess you could say with Stranger Things. They're in the first season, they're looking for the kid, right? So it's not really episodic, but it works for that show. But Star Trek, if you do that, it doesn't really hit because you want to learn more of the time. You want to learn more about what this does, who are these people. And if you skip all of that, then there are all the little holes, the plot holes.
That's why not every episode focused not every episode was deeply entrenched in that Xindi narrative. I mean, it would still be an exploration show. They're going out to the unknown. But there would be episodes where they had to, they encountered the Xindi, and they would have to, figure out how to find them. There was
none of us would feel the way we do about each of those characters on that show if they weren't given if the show wasn't episodic to begin with. If we didn't have an episode to deal with Trip alone, or with Archer alone, or any of the other characters, if we never had those episodes, it wouldn't be the same show. You need to have an episodic format for Star Trek. Otherwise, it just won't work. It needs to be
even DS9.
Yeah.
I mean, there was the 6-parter, and there are episodes that follow up on each other. And then of course the final 10-parter.
And
But
don't you
everything
love
else
that
was
when
pretty
you,
much
like,
its own.
yeah.
It was mostly standalone.
And
Beginning, middle,
don't
and
you
end.
love that feeling when you're watching an episode further in the series, and it's referring to a previous one that you totally almost forgot about? I love that. That's just like callbacks to, I guess, fillers of, it's something I've seen a lot of sitcoms kind of do, where they refer to a previous episode. That's just what expands the show. You deal with only one character. It's a very linear storyline, but if you expand it, if you deal with everybody, even if you deal with the enemies, if we're talking about the Orville here, I would be really cool to have an Orville episode dedicated just to the Krill. We only see their point of view, and then just one episode. But it can't be one season just about Ed Mercer and that's it. The whole show, the reason it's so successful is because you're learning more about Scott Grimes' character. You're learning more about how Commander Lamar is such a smart person and how he became the engineering officer. There's just so many stuff. That's just what Star Trek now is missing.
Yeah, and when Kelly asked John Lamar, why are you hiding how smart you are? And then he says, it's because I grew up on a colony where if you showed how smart you were, people shunned you. So he always played the idiot.
Yeah. So I have to hop off. I have to
All right, brother.
prep
All right, bro.
my Stranger Things stream. So
I appreciate you coming on, brother.
well, thank you. I appreciate you inviting me. So can't wait. If you wanna, what I was thinking of doing next week was do what I've been doing with Better Call Saul, have an after show after the episode. Right after the episode, it'd be midnight, be late, but I was thinking of having a direct reaction.
Yeah,
I'm in because I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to tell you, Spock, and everybody that's watching right now. I am probably going to watch the episode live, but then I'm going to tell everybody, go over to Nerdporeal and you'll hear my reaction.
Yeah.
I kind of miss this. It's the one thing I don't like about streaming is that when they drop stuff, like midnight for some reason or really late. Just having it like a time, like a show that was on TV, like Better Call Saul's on AMC, so they have an 8 p.m. Central Monday, so I can easily do an after show right after that. My last one, geez, I'll say this: a character died and it ended on a massive cliffhanger, a crowd pleaser, and because of that, I was one of the few that actually had a talk after show. So I had the biggest audience I've ever had. I had up to 72 people.
Dang.
Well, that reminds
so
me.
It's my best performing video without buying ads. 2K.
That reminds me.
Something that it work. This type of thing does work.
Yeah, it does work because my season finale of Chucky video, that's at 1,000 views.
Yeah,
that's me giving my live reaction and review right after the episode.
So, but yeah, so once you guys are done with the stream, come on by to join me, Salty, and Steve, Prophet of the Dragon. We're going to be talking about Stranger Things because the first volume drops tomorrow. So if you're not a fan of Stranger Things, well, maybe come by and get some insight on it. So other than that,
come by and get some knowledge. I want some knowledge. I've never watched it.
Forbidden knowledge. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Have a good one. Take care.
You too, brother.
Buddy.
Have a good stream.
Oh boy. But yeah, that's cool to hear that we're getting first episode June 1st.
Mm-hmm. June 1st, June 2nd, depending on what side of the country you're on.
Yeah, and if it wasn't thanks to Tom, I would not have known about that. But if it's if we're talking about places like in Australia who are watching it on Disney Plus, they're most likely going to either watch it the same day or maybe earlier than us, to be honest. Because they're technically, you could say, in time zone, they're kind of in the future. So Australia and yeah.
Dude, Felix, I cannot wait to see Top Gun Maverick. Everybody that I've seen on Twitter who has seen it already has said You got to go see it. I'm planning on going to see it this week, and I'm gonna try my hardest to go see it tomorrow. Oh man, see, we are getting things to look forward to. We're getting the Orville next week. Tomorrow we get Top Gun Maverick, or tonight, depending on if you wanted to see the Thursday night showing, or some people did go to the Tuesday night showing. But we've got some good things to look forward to.
It's crazy too, because the first Top Gun was in 1986, so this is like, you know, I really hope it's good. You know, it's hard to capitalize on that old style of filming, how they used to do it back then. You know, there's not really a term for how they used to film back then, but you know, I always just refer to it as the 80s and 90s filming. It's just, there's unbeatable in quality, but we'll see. You know, I've seen some really good reboots.
And I know you weren't here when Brian and I started, but I'm gonna ask you the same question about, our favorite characters that I asked him. What do you think is gonna happen with characters like Ed, Kelly, Gordon, John, Mortis? Yaphet, what are we gonna see from Yaphet this season? Isaac, Claire, Ty, and Marcus. What do you think we're gonna see, Spock?
Most possible one, well, we kind of know that's going to happen is Yaphet is going to go through mitosis. When maybe halfway in the season, because we do see in the trailer that they do have Norm Macdonald still voicing for Yaphet. It just depends on when those lines run out that they need to do the mitosis switch. And I don't know about you. I mean, it's sad to hear, it's always saddening to hear that, what happened to Norm Macdonald, and I wish he was still with us. But it is always intriguing to know who are they going to use as, the Yaphet offspring, I guess you could call them. Who are the comedians going to be for those voices? That's always intriguing to know. Like, you might have lost a legend, but you'll hopefully gain two more legends too at the same time. It would be funny if they introduced some A+ comedians on there, like Chris Rock or something. Even though like we've never seen Chris Rock or any of those actors like Kevin James affiliated with Seth MacFarlane before, it could be pretty funny still.
Yeah,
they don't have that different of a humor. I definitely don't want to see Seth Rogen though. Seth.
Oh gosh, I don't want to. I don't want to see Yaphet's offspring going.
Yeah, no, I don't want to see another Paul movie, but
No.
But yeah, I think they could definitely. Chris Rock, he's already done a bunch of voiceovers and he's hilarious, so he could fit easily. I don't know, maybe not for Yaphet, but for another alien possibly. For Bortus, somebody told me that we're gonna probably see him and Clyden split, but I don't know. For some reason, I don't think that's gonna happen because the last season they seemed, even though what happened with Bortus's son, who is now his daughter, I still think he loves Clyden. They go through some rough patches, very rough patches, if I may add, but it still seems like they loved each other. But I could be surprised. You know how they divorce each other. They stab each other in the heart. So we could see that happen to Clyden from Bortus. I doubt it, though. For Lamar, I mean, judging on what he said himself on the live stream, and I'm sure I recorded a bit of it. I don't know if I recorded the part where he answered most of the questions, but if there is a way to replay Instagram live streams, he did a Q&A on there, and somebody asked him, what are we going to see from him on the next season? And he did say, there is possibly going to be a love story for him. And that's really intriguing because we haven't seen that yet at all.
Yeah, in season 2, his character John was with that one end because Ed goes to his quarters saying, "Hey, you want to grab a late night drink?" And then the ensign shows up.
Yeah. So it's her is a big possibility. I always liked Lamar and Alara. Maybe that could happen too. I think that was mainly really pushed towards me when I saw I think it was the last episode, Identity Part 2, when we saw the mirror verse of the Orville and when everything went to crap and Alara was like in charge of a huge resistance and Lamar knew her pretty well. I thought there was like a good connection there. Other than that, the rest of them are honestly kind of a mystery at this point because from the last time we saw them, and I honestly think that's why the Orville is the smartest show out right now. Because if you remember how the season 2 finale went down, we saw just Kelly go back to sleep, wake up. She messed up, but Claire came back, gave her the redosage, and then she went on with her life like it used to go. But you know, it's like it leaves a big mystery at the same time. We saw a good conclusion, but now we have no idea what to expect at all because we weren't shown what happened to the universe we know at the very last episode. From what we saw, that universe blew up. Their ship blew up. Well, no, sorry, that was the mirror universe. Apologies. But yeah, we never really saw what happened in the normal universe in the end of the episode. So Kelly could be doing anything. I know we talked about this a couple days ago, and it was the trailer. And what Kelly was saying is like yesterday was another life.
Yeah,
now
I was
it's
just
like
gonna
another
play
one.
that. Hold on.
It's almost like yesterday was one life. And today's another.
So that honestly is a hint that maybe they remember something. And I said this to you. It's possible Claire's dosage might have worn off to the point where it's not really a threat anymore. It worn off to the point where, and this would sound cool. If you guys can remember, I think it was Identity Part 1, the last time we saw, I guess I'm going to call it the prime universe of the Orville, the one we know, was in Identity Part 1. It's very possible at that same moment, that is when Kelly remembers everything that happened. And she starts to be like, well, you know, there starts to be a little bit of a conflict there. She remembers the Orville being blown up. She remembers how bad the universe was, now how good it is. So that's probably what she's saying right there, or it's probably a whole different quote in general. Who knows? But what she said there is kind of suspicious. Maybe she does remember something. As for Ed Mercer, everyone was hoping that he'd be an admiral. I don't think that's going to happen for a long time. Although it would be really cool to see him in a purple uniform. I don't think that's going to happen for a long time. And to be honest, people do want to see this grow into a giant franchise. That would be cool. But what is the Orville without, you know, Seth MacFarlane? Or if you're going to keep him as the writer or something, it's just, I don't know. There's no point to that because they're just trying to show everybody how good Star Trek was. And if we can do this again, why not just bring the same level of entertainment back to Star Trek? That's what I think they're trying to prove, is that we can still do this. It's just that you made us do it in a separate franchise. And that's on you. As for Ed Mercer's character, though, I think he's honestly going to remain the same. And that's, you know, that's not a very educated guess, but it's just a guess at this point. Anything could happen to him. He's probably going to be, I don't know, he probably will be an admiral. Who knows? But doubtful. As for Isaac, we're definitely going to see a redemption arc. For Gordon, we're going to see a love story. Ty and Marcus and Claire, definitely more of, you know, Isaac relationship with Claire and his relationship with the kids. We're going to see more of that and how they're going to grow up to be adults one day. And that's why I wish the show keeps going, because I would love to see Marcus and Ty grow up eventually.
Well, not only that, when season 3 started production and started filming, you know, it was before the coup. So they have the episodes that were already filmed, but then they had to go back and film episodes once they were allowed to go back to filming. So we are going to see sort of a time jump, I would expect. And we're going to see Marcus and Ty older.
If I had to say what kind of time jump, guess maybe a year. That's the safest amount they'd have to give us. Or if they're going to be realistic, they'll probably give us 2 years. The exact amount of years the last season we saw season 2 was 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. Sorry. So I mean,
It's all right. It's been so long.
it's been a long time. So it could be added to the actual years. So 3 years later, and that's why the Orville looks as good as it does. I mean, if you saw the chat here, I know you saw it, Mike. The updated Orville ship. If anyone in the chat didn't see, if you rewind the HD trailer that they released recently, the Orville is different. The ship is different. The technology is substantially changed. So
Upon my works and despair.
Look at that. It's a lot
traveler
more mean.
Comes upon statue of an emperor, inscribed with the words, "My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings."
So the back right there, you can tell just from that lighting, they are using a different hull plating. Because if everyone remembers, the first season was the hull of the Orville was a lot more white, like a lot lighter. Now they put like a dark gray, signifying that maybe the outer hull is a lot stronger, tougher, and we're maybe gonna find out. And that's my favorite part about this. We're gonna learn how the Orville changed, what they equipped on it, because they always save that for us. They always say what they equipped, what they changed for the first episode. So it's possible we're going to see something similar to like the Voyager Intrepid with bioneural gel packs. Maybe they're able to have holographic officers walk around on the bridge now. It's possible that the technology has substantially changed from the last time we saw it, just basing it on what the ship looks like now. And I did put a comparison on Twitter. I don't know if I'll be able to find it. It was a while ago, between the two different ships. The nacelles are wider, and they're a lot more turquoise. So also saying that the energy has probably changed a bit. Because if you saw the trailer, they showed engineering, and we saw like a singularity in there. So it's
Look
definitely
upon my
changed,
works
for sure.
and despair. Only there's nothing left beside it, except empty desert.
Kalon's ship stayed more
It
or
is
less
good
the
to
same.
be back.
Yep.
I really wish they'd let us.
Bridge is a lot wider, so it's more of like the Ambassador class bridge, one I'm using for the episodic series, because this one does look a lot wider than the previous design. I could be wrong in saying that, but just looking at some images of the comparisons, this new bridge, it looks like there's a lot more breathing room between each person, and just looking at the left side of him, the consoles have changed drastically. They're a lot bigger.
Play music up here.
Nicer
Why?
seats. It's nice.
I mean, even look behind Kelly. The additional
the
consoles
architecture has changed. It's just the budget has stepped up. You can tell.
and the lighting on the bridge is different.
It's way different. Because it was like really white, bright white light. Now it's like, it's kind of, how do I say, hued down a bit. So there's not that much brightness on the bridge anymore. It's really nice. It didn't really take away anything from the scene at all. Because nobody believes it, but bad angles and bad lighting can ruin a film. It really can. So they made a good call with this. I mean, doing the comparison of what the bridge looked like before and now, it looks a lot more
See if I can pull up
cinematic.
a picture so we can see a comparison.
Do it, yeah. It's a lot more cinematic for sure. And that tab that shouldn't be there said, I wouldn't mind seeing some Orville TV movies or a miniseries set elsewhere in the setting, maybe between seasons. It's very possible that could happen. I'm just saying not so, because the whole point of the Orville is to counteract what's going on with Star Trek right now, and to bring back that spirit. And if they can bring that back, might as well just bring that to Star Trek too. It's not too hard to say that whatever's come out now is set in a separate timeline. I think everybody's actually waiting on that. I said this myself to Brian, that I would love those new shows. I wouldn't mind Strange New Worlds. I don't like what they did with the characters at all, but I wouldn't mind it if they said that this is not in the same universe. Then I could, those inconsistencies doesn't matter because they're not the same people. It's not the same universe. Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with you. I'm just trying to get the picture to come up right.
Oh, no, you're good. So it's very possible. Like even DJ Ronnie said, if MacFarlane is Kirk, then someone else can be the new Picard. I'm not disagreeing with that at all. I honestly agree with where you're coming from. There very well could be a new Orville show. I'm just saying, why not focus that creative energy towards Star Trek again? That's what all got us fans in the first place, is Star Trek. Oh, I love that picture.
Yep. Going back to what you're saying, about the lighting and what I was saying about the lighting. This is from season 2. This is the lighting in season 2. Let me pull up the trailer again.
Be on our feet, ready for action.
Let me bring that back a little bit. And that's how the lighting is in season 3. So it's definitely taken a different tone when you compare the two of them.
Yeah, it's just so much more cinematic. I don't know anything about camera aspects or the technical specifications that go into it, but whatever they did, they upgraded. It's easy to say that much. DJ says, thank you, Spock. I have the same contention with the timeline situation. Yeah, I mean, a lot of us are waiting on that. Yeah, a lot of us are waiting on just some official word saying, come on, just say this isn't a different timeline. Just stop pissing us off, because it wouldn't take away. I mean, if I don't know where their head is at right now. Maybe they think putting it in a different timeline will take away the ratings and the viewership from the show. If anything, it'll boost it. It'll honestly boost it. I mean, look at the JJ trilogy. Not my favorite, but I'd honestly watch that more than what's coming out right now. At least that is a lot more entertaining in some aspects. The ship battles, the sound effects in that show, and hell, even Captain Pike and Bruce Greenwood was a really good Captain Pike in those movies. I honestly I wasn't a big fan of Chris Pine. I know some people are. I liked Quinto more. Quinto was a really good Spock. I don't know why they're not just utilizing him. More of a reason for this to be in a separate universe. I think Strange New Worlds kind of signify that more than any of the other shows, that Star Trek or New Trek should be set in a different timeline, whatever the name should be. Who cares? Kurtzman timeline, whatever it's going to be called, just put it in there, because right now it's just getting in the way. If you remember the JJ movie, I think it was the second one, Into Darkness, and Spock, old Spock from our universe, he gave Zachary Quinto Spock a picture of the Enterprise crew, and it was McCoy, DeForest Kelly, Nichelle Nichols. It was all the original actors. So that's just saying that they care about that continuity. They care about those actors remaining as those same characters. So if you're gonna easily replace them with Ethan Peck, and I'm sorry, I forget the name who replaced Kirk. That
Chris
just seems.
Pine?
No, the Chris Pine, he wasn't a JJ. With the new one for I think it was Strange New Worlds. They showed a new picture of
in Strange New Worlds. I can't remember the name of the actor, but the guy doesn't look like.
He doesn't look like at all. I mean, Chris Pine looks more like
William
Shatner. I don't know. It's just it hurts my brain every time I had to watch that first episode, just because I wanted to entertain myself. I wanted to see if this was, at least entertaining as much as the JJ trilogy was, and boy was I wrong. I mean, the season 1 of Strange New Worlds, the first episode is just made to piss you off. It's made to alienate all of the original Star Trek fans because it's trying to go in for a new audience. There's nothing wrong with accepting a new audience as long as you don't alienate the old one. That the one that basically bought all your merchandise, the one that made your show famous to begin with. You alienate those people, expect bad ratings, and that's exactly what's happening.
You, I, and Crit watched the first episode.
Yeah.
And one of the things I commented about was when the communicator was closed and it was making the chirping sound. It only makes the chirping sound when you open it. When it's closed, it beeps.
Yeah, exactly.
And the tad that shouldn't be is correct. He says
They
that
can't because Abrams doesn't have a lock hold on Trek.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing I will say, even though the JJ trilogy is more entertaining than New Trek right now, he was the, how should I say, he was the gateway for normies in the Star Trek universe. I'm sorry to say that, but everybody who are Star Trek fans currently, I'm not saying everybody, but most people, if you, and I'm referring to YouTube comments and Twitters, the people who actually take their time to actually have discussions about Star Trek now, they make me sick because a lot of them are very perverted. They want to see sexual tension. They want to see a bunch of unnecessary horror, like people getting their arms chopped off for no reason just to add to the suspense or the action or whatever. It just makes me sick how those new movies have attracted the attention of, and it's inevitable. Eventually everything gets gentrified. Let's face it.
You're not wrong, though.
Yeah.
I went with 2 friends to see the 2009 Star Trek movie, then 2 other friends to see Into Darkness, and they liked it. And they saw me shaking my head, and they're all, "What was your problem with the movie?" I said, "It didn't feel like Star Trek. It wasn't Star Trek." And
Yeah.
when I was leaving to Darkness with my other 2 friends, I said, when they asked what I thought of it, I said, "Wrath of Khan is better."
Yeah. And you know why people like those 3 movies? Simply because they have the same elements from Star Wars. That's it.
Mhm.
Action, ships fighting, barely any character development, ladies in bras. It's just like, it's not even really Star Trek anymore. It was just an action-packed Star Wars movie at that point. Those 3 movies are all basically Star Wars movies. I guess you could argue the third one, Beyond, felt less like a Star Wars movie because the script was given to Simon Pegg and he kind of did make it a little bit more nerdy, but at the same time, it was still an action film. It didn't really go into the same depths of what original Star Trek used to do, which was confronting 2 opposing civilizations or opposing a civilization against yours, like the Federation. There wasn't really any tension in those movies, and there's only so much you can do in a movie. But hell, look at Galaxy Quest. That was a comedy, and it painted a pretty good conflict still,
Yeah, and that, by a lot of people, is considered the best Star Trek movie, even though it's not really a Star Trek movie.
Yeah.
It pays homage to Star Trek in such a nice way. Say, yes, we love this franchise. It means a lot. And you see that in the Orville. You see Seth MacFarlane's love for Star Trek in the Orville. Yes, he does change the scenarios and, the stories, but he also adapts from the same stories and puts new twists on it. And by hiring people who worked on Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, what have you, to work on the Orville, and the product that we received in the first 2 seasons was remarkable. And I can't wait to see what we get in season 3. I really can't. I'm looking forward to it. That's why when I saw that tweet by Tom Constantino, I took a double take, brother. I'm on 9 p.m. on June 1st for the West Coast, midnight for me. So that means after Pop Talk that night, because I'm not going to go all the way till midnight, but after Pop Talk, I'll be prepping to go live once again to get my live reaction to episode 1 of The Orville. And then we'll join Brian on his channel and we'll talk about it.
Yeah. It's the best way to say, man. It's keeping that format that we're all accustomed to as fans of Star Trek. It's keeping that, and I still don't know how to describe it till this day, and I'm sure there is somebody a lot more analytical than I am, but best way I can see it is they're keeping that human condition. They're keeping that where you care about everybody. In Star Trek, now you can, and this is just a biased opinion, but I'm sure a lot of people will agree that you don't give a shit about the new characters. You just don't.
You don't.
The only one I ever felt like, he's actually kind of cool and I don't want him to die was Doug Jones's character, whose name always escapes me.
Saru.
Saru. I actually didn't mind Saru because he was the only one who actually, it adds to the Star Trek feel. There's an alien on the bridge. It's not supposed to just be humans, and them hugging and everything. But it's missing that thing that the Orville has now, which is each character has their own story. And that's not it. You see that story play out throughout the series. So like, for example, the background of Bortus, what his planet is like. You still see that side of him, that effect throughout the entire season, even though it's, dealing with, say, what's her name? I always forget her name, the new security officer after Alara.
I had her name.
It's it's like the one with the ponytail. I forget her name.
Tiala.
Yeah. There's an episode of her and Mocklin falling in love, and even though it has nothing to do with Bortus, that Mocklin culture still comes into play in that episode, even though it's dealing with just her. So that's what I mean. Every episode ties in. Every episode is dealing with something new. That's why the Orville is successful. If you tell a long seasonal arc that nobody gives a shit about, why should people continue watching? Do you think anybody really cared about Michael Burnham's mother, a person we barely know anything about, and we should care about her mother now? I don't know. And the fact that she has like an Iron Man suit that can travel back in time was just ridiculous. That just tells you that this is not the same creative content. And don't get me wrong. The reason I say ridiculous to all those things, they're cool, A suit that can travel in space and go back in time is awesome. But it's not Star Trek. When was that ever shown in Star Trek that you can do something like that? I'm not saying you can't add new things, but there is a limit to what you could add in Star Trek. The only powerful thing that should ever exist is Q. There should be nothing more powerful than Q. Let's just...
What they did to Q. That's ridiculous.
I didn't see Picard Season 2, but I don't mind spoilers. I just don't consider it canon, so whatever spoilers I hear from it, I just, it's like one ear out the other anyways. But it honestly, there shouldn't be anything more powerful than Q. And if there is, there should be a good explanation for it. Like the Prophets, for example, they could be potentially a lot more powerful than Q. It's just that we don't know. But they're built up in an interesting way where we can speculate on that.
Mm-hmm. And the reason why I'm bringing up a picture of Alara is because when Halston Sage left the show and Alara left the Orville, we as fans, we felt it. We didn't want to see her go, but we understood why the character was leaving.
She wasn't annoying. She wasn't naggy. She wasn't just like some girl on the bridge and then leaves for... Like, how they always do that where it's a character we don't know anything about, we've barely even seen, and they build her up the most, or him, they build up the most emotional scene for that character to depart, even though, why should we be so sad? We barely even know anything about this guy.
It's not earned.
Yeah, it's not earned. Exactly. Best way to say it. Because Alara... she earned our, I don't know about respect, but she earned our interest to actually care about her character. And she deserved it, because she's a really good written character. And I think her species is awesome, because this is what I mean. This is something Discovery should be doing. Instead of diving into, like, crazy technology like time travel and all of that crap, just make more interesting species like Alara. She's basically Hulk Superman. She can... jump super high, and she can break things with no ease. With ease. So it's just like, do the same thing like that. Make a dilithium species. That sounds stupid. Or make a species that's completely made out of, I don't know, lead. Just like be a little more interesting about it. It gotta kind of deal within the realm of X-Men mutants. Obviously don't have crazy Dark Phoenix powers, but have the ability to like make them obviously different from humans. That's the whole point of Star Trek, to confront differences and to adopt them, because
let's face it, it's funny to hear Ed say to Alara or Tiala, could you open this jar of pickles for me, because of how strong their species are.
Yeah, and that's something you wouldn't really get in Star Trek, even just that comedy alone. You know, the little quips. You don't get that in Star Trek, really. I mean, Deep Space Nine and Enterprise a lot more so. Hell, even Voyager, but it's not taken to the level of how the Orville does it. In my opinion, the Orville presents, you know, minus the silly episodes, which they all really are, but minus the silly moments, like Gordon's leg being chopped off.
You're sick, dude.
It's a lot more, how should I say, realistic than Star Trek. The way they are, the chemistry between them, they act like how we do today. Because let's face it, humans will change. We will overcome things, but are we gonna change? I don't know. For our behavior, humans are always gonna be the same. We're always gonna have greed. We're always gonna have corruption. Unfortunately, there's always gonna be, I don't know, somebody with a inferiority complex, whatever. But it's just, it's missing those, I don't know, it's just missing that human element. And every time I talk about this, it just, you know, I always lose my train of thought because of how frustrating it is.
It's frustrating because when we were watching Strange New Worlds and that one captain says to Pike, pick up your phone, they wouldn't even use that term in the 23rd century.
Yeah.
It's not part of their vernacular anymore.
Yeah, and yeah, you reminded me, because like Orville might introduce some funny quips and all of that, and people complain about, oh well, you know, and I'm included in this. Like I complain that, oh, Discovery uses these stupid jokes and yada yada yada. They do. They use really stupid jokes, and so does the Orville. But the thing with the difference between those shows is that it's timed better. It just, like, I don't know how to say it any more than that. It's timed.
It all
better.
comes down
It
to
balances.
timing.
Yeah, it all comes down to timing, because if you're having, and I forget her name, and I really don't care to remember, the bridge officer in Discovery, where she's like, kiss my ass, or sorry, kiss my ass, sir, or something along those lines.
Oh yeah, that one from engineering.
Yeah, I
See,
shit
that's
like
the
that
thing.
is not funny.
That's the thing. If she said that to Kirk, Picard, Cisco, or Janeway, they would go, in my ready room now, or Cisco would say, in my office now.
Or to the brig.
hmm
Yeah, but yeah, she would bring him to
But-
the ready room.
They would bring them to the ready room, and then they would pretty much be, dressed down, saying, "You do not speak to a commanding officer like that." Anyone who
And how do you even become an engineering officer talking like that in the first place? Because you see the funny jokes Lamar and Gordon make, but it's never like directly towards the captain. I mean, they make some funny quips here and there, like I said, timed perfectly. Whenever the captain asks a question, they usually give a funny response, or they give a legit response, but most of the time they joke between themselves. They never talk that way towards the captain. I mean, there is that sense of hierarchy still in the Orville. There is the chain of command that still functions in that show.
Yeah, because even in Nothing Left on Earth Accepting Fishers, Gordon wants to go through the command program. And, Kelly even says to him after he, gets frustrated with the program, she says to him, there's going to be times where you have to make the difficult choice. Just like when Troy was going through the command program on Next Generation, and I think it was season 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And Commander Riker was saying there are going to be times where you're going to have to send somebody to their death.
Yeah. See, another point of like timed perfectly, because like it gets jokey, and then there's moments like that where he delivers a serious line that applies even to real life. You know, people, and I can never put my shoes and myself in people's shoes who are in like the Navy and everything, but I'm sure those quotes hit hard with them. You know, stuff like that where they talk about serious, decisions that is even done today in real life military. Like you're gonna have to send somebody when you're a captain. You're gonna order people to do something, and maybe one of them are gonna get killed, and there's nothing you can really do about that. It's just a part of war. It's a part of, and I don't know fully about what I'm talking about, but you know what I mean. It's just
making the tough decisions.
Yeah, it delivers those serious monologues.
And that's a great balance of what the show can do. It can give you the comedy when it's warranted, when it's needed, but it will also give you those serious, dramatic moments to really think about because of the writing. And it's not just because of Seth, it's Seth and the writing team all getting together and, going through the episodes saying, let's add this, let's add that. I mean, you have former Star Trek writers on that show,
Yeah.
probably going, I wish we could have done this on, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, Next Generation, but we were limited with what we can do because of the
Oh, I'm
studio.
sure. I'm sure. You know, the scene with, lasting impressions, that episode we were talking about with Gordon, that's one of my favorite episodes because Tim Russ makes an appearance too as not as Tuvok, but we all remember him as Tuvok, and the way he acts in that episode, so jovial. It's like I'm sure he wished he could have acted more like that, in Voyager. Even though he was a Vulcan, I'm sure that a lot of the previous actors wish Star Trek wasn't so, how should I say, uptight. They kind of wish it was a little bit more loose in terms of humor and stuff like that.
Well, even having
Neelix was
Gordon
the
take
closest.
yeah, even having Gordon take the phone and downloading all the information off of the phone from Laura's life and getting to know who Laura was, and then dealing with the consequences of deleting certain aspects of that data, how it changed things drastically. You know, that's the thing that you don't get from new Star Trek. You don't get a story where the character is dealing with consequences and having to deal with the repercussions of those consequences, with whether it's caused by that character or someone else. I don't see it in the episodes of Discovery I've watched and Picard. I don't see it. The one episode of Strange New Worlds I've watched, I don't see it. I really don't.
Yeah, yeah, it's not there. And God, I hate what they did to Nurse Chapel. I hate it. She's a pretty actress, but
That's not
Nurse
Nurse Chapel.
Chapel, really? Come on. And in respect to Tom Constantino, but I was surprised to I was surprised to see that he actually liked those uniforms. Unfortunately,
Well,
but
if I had the money, I would get an Orville uniform.
yeah, I would too, man. I don't know. It's not the same anymore. It's the best way to put it.
No.
And it's one thing I would say. The reason there is any fans for the new stuff that's out right now is simply either because they're fans of Kurtzman, since Iron Man 3 or something, so they've been following his discography chain for a long time, or simply because they're brand new, so they don't know what
Yep.
to watch. Because everybody's been in that boat where they're new and they don't know what to watch exactly. So I'm sure everybody eventually will come to the conclusion that the Orville is better than New Trek. It won't take a scientist to even look at that, because good writing is noticed by anyone. Good writing, good directing, what have you. It's eventually going to be noticed that the Orville is very either underrated or two is a lot more successful. I hope for either of those two outcomes, because they both sound great to me. If the Orville ends up to become a season 5 show where, it didn't get too much ratings, but eventually everyone looks back on it like they do on Enterprise, and everyone will say, oh, it was actually a very underrated show, I'll be fine with that. I am more hoping, though, that eventually Orville becomes very successful to the point where it has 7 seasons and there to be an actual decent conclusion to the characters.
Mm-hmm. And I have an article here from Gizmodo. It says the Orville Seth MacFarlane on those Star Trek comparisons. Creator and star MacFarlane, along with the Hulu series executive producers, explain the differences between the sci-fi shows. And this was just posted today. And it goes on to say, when the Orville premiered back in 2017, its arrival coincided almost exactly with Star Trek Discovery, the first new Trek TV show in over a decade. Comparisons between the two series were inevitable, with even IO9 calling the Orville's Star Trek spoof in our earliest coverage of the series. Excuse me. It goes on to say, but as anyone who's watched Seth MacFarlane's created and starring show knows, that's not at all what the Orville was aiming for at the beginning. And over 2 seasons, with a third titled Orville New Horizons arriving next week on Hulu, has set itself apart from Trek in many ways. Although Gene Roddenberry's franchise remains a clear influence, there is also the small fact that currently there's now more Star Trek on TV than ever before. And, that's also what's hurting the franchise too, is the oversaturation of the market. It happened before. It happened before when you had Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise, and the movies on top of that. And this article goes on to say, I think it's safe to say that we're still occupying our own space this year. McFarlane told IO9 over a video chat at a recent Orville press event. Certainly, the more that's out there, you do start to become a little concerned that, you know, is it oversaturation? Is there a pocket where our show and only our show exists? And I think it's still very much the case. And then the article goes on to say, not wanting to spoil what's in store, McFarlane didn't get too into detail about what specifically sets the Orville apart from Star Trek this season. In more general terms, it's this genre that emerged in the 1930s of a ship in space, captain and crewed very much the same way that a sailing ship was. He said it's something that dates back oh, to a lot of decades. Star Trek was really the first to take it and turn it into something that really mattered and was a serious form of storytelling. For us, sci fi right now is very dark. It's very dystopian. That is very true. It's very grim in a lot of ways. It's very cautionary. And the optimistic, uplifting part of that genre is something we haven't really seen in a while. So there was a pretty obvious open pocket for us to kind of slip into when we started.
It's funny because we both know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
They're talking about Discovery and everything because how dystopian and dark they are, and I love that. This is like proving my point. This is made simply despite Discovery, and to bring back that, how should I say, optimistic future that Star Trek introduced in the first place, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Yep. And I'm not gonna finish reading the whole article, but that's the main point of the article I wanted to get to. Having read the article beforehand. But you see that, people want positivity.
Oh yeah, here's the thing. The only reason we're seeing these new shows is because somebody is greenlighting them because they can afford it, and eventually one day they're not going to be able to afford it. So then it comes down to the ratings. That's what's making the money. Since the show barely has any ratings, they're not making any money from that. And you see, like, maybe at the most 17,000 people who like, Strange New World stuff and all that. 17,000 to, like, over 1 million people? Come on. The million people is referring to the viewers of Orville, because that's how many it broke in Season 2's finale. Over 1 million. And Season 2 of Discovery and Strange New Worlds and what have you, have never even come close to breaking that. So, it's just, the numbers don't lie. That's all I really always bring the argument to. The numbers don't lie. And eventually, we're all going to realize the same thing we're talking about. Everybody's going to agree with us that the Orville is just something people want to see. You think people want to see dark... it depends on the sci-fi. But for Star Trek, it's always been about optimism. You think Star Trek fans want to see a dark future for their favorite franchise where the Federation ceases to exist in the 32nd century, where everything is blown from bits because one species is able to destroy all of the warp engines? Just some lazy writing like that. I don't think anyone wants to see that at all. And if anyone does, they're new fans. I'm going to say that very boldly. If you want to see that stuff, you're obviously new. Because I couldn't accept at all somebody who is a fan of the original series likes this stuff. And if you do, then you got to rewatch and do your homework, because you are doing yourself a disservice by doing that stuff, by watching this new content and actually enjoying it if you are a legit Star Trek fan. If you're brand new and you're watching this stuff for the first time, or you don't really have anything to base anything off of, I don't put any blame on you at all. It's just that if you know what this franchise is coming from since the original series and you know pretty much everything about it, how could you stand to like this new stuff? It pretty much puts everything you loved down the toilet because they want to start something new. That's the whole point of these new shows, is because they want to make something new. And how do they do that? By throwing away everything we've seen already so that they can have their own playground to make whatever they want. That's basically all it comes down to. And if you can bring it up, there's a quote Michael Dorn says about Discovery that basically says it all. It's all about creating their own stamp. Something around those lines, he said. Something about creating their own stamp. And he couldn't be any more true. And that's why he is one of the smartest actors from the Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. He's the only one who hasn't returned, and for his own reasons. He doesn't want to return because of what they've done to the Klingons. He doesn't want Worf's image to be ruined. He actually likes the character. And I can't lie, I really love Worf too. I wouldn't want to see him turn into a Mokai or a Klingon. Those look horrible. They look like orcs.
I found this article from 4 years ago where it says Michael Dorn glad he isn't a Klingon on Star Trek
Yes.
Discovery.
This is the one.
Michael Dorn has seen the makeup process on Discovery's Klingons, and he is not here for it. Which, this question has to be asked. Because Michael Dorn is in season 3 of Picard. Is he going to be in season 3 as a different character? Or is he going to be in season 3 as Worf? And if he's in season 3 as Worf, is he going to look like this? Like the Worf
No.
we know?
Yeah, not at all. Unless they bring it to the universe we're all aware of. Because, hell, even JJ made the same mistake. Because you all remember what they looked like in Into Darkness. The Klingons looked horrible. They looked better than what they are in Discovery, but they still had that bald feature to them. Why do they have to be bald? What is wrong with the original look of the Klingons that you have to change it? It's just for the matter of them wanting to change it. That's why. They want to make their own stamp. And I think that's what he says here.
I'm just going to bring up a
No
picture
worries.
of a Klingon from Into Darkness. Yeah, right here.
It's like, why do they have to look like fish now?
It's like, I'm sorry, that speaks another species. It doesn't speak Klingon to me.
Because it looks better than the one that's in Discovery, but they're both bad. They're both just bad.
And there's your Discovery Klingon, or Klinor.
Kling Orc, yeah. That tab that shouldn't be there says, all these crappy shows are a side effect of the increases in productivity and efficiency from computers. Yes. And that makes them incredibly cheap to produce in comparison to before like shows in Babylon 5. Babylon 5 is seriously underrated, and I really hope it stays that way. I don't want this show to become so popular like it has recently, and them to be, oh, you know what? Let's make a Babylon 5 reboot. Why? So you can ruin it? Just leave it alone. There's nothing you can do to top what's already been put out. That's just honest truth. You can make
I
a new
wish
show.
Warner Brothers
Yeah.
would release the remastered versions of Babylon 5
They could
on
do that.
Blu-ray.
I think they kind of did. They
They
remastered
have
the
it on
90s.
HBO Max,
Yeah.
but I
A
want
full
physical
remaster
copy.
would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would be, give me like 10 years and CGI and everything. I'll be one of those volunteers. I would love to take the time out of my day to remaster the CGI of every single one of my favorite shows. And that's it. That's all I want to do is just, like, here's an example. You guys remember episode 4 of A New Hope, Star Wars? And when...
Oh, you mean that movie that came out 45 years ago yesterday?
No, it actually came
Star Wars, that movie that didn't do anything.
It actually came out today, so...
No, it was yesterday. Yesterday was the 45th anniversary.
No, I was kidding. Yeah, I know. I was just making a joke that, yeah, the New Hope...
Well, it flew over my head.
No, it's okay. A New Hope definitely wouldn't have come out today. Movies like that are not made anymore. But taking all that aside, everyone enjoys the stories and everything, but there was always something I felt was missing, and a lot of people appreciate the old practical effects. I love them too. It's just that for scenes like, I think it was episode 4, where Han Solo is leaving the atmosphere with Luke and Obi-Wan, and then there's just a bunch of Star Destroyers, and then one of them is actually chasing them, and then they're getting shot at. I'm like, this scene would have been a lot cooler if we got a little bit more of an outward perspective of it, because all we see is the inside of their ship. They're not really saying anything, and you just see it rocking around. During that time, I would have done like a remaster of you actually seeing the Star Destroyer attack the Millennium Falcon. That's all I do. That's all I'd love to do for Babylon 5 as well, and Star Trek. Just add more, elements that add to the story, like parts of the battle that we, when people aren't talking and nothing is being said, that's the parts where there should be a little bit more of a battle scene, like a ship scene or whatever. For Babylon 5, that's already kind of been done. They remastered the 90s graphics on HBO Max, but a lot of people were saying, how cool would it be if all of those scenes, the parts that show the ship and the station, were actually remastered today. It would look a lot better, obviously, but it doesn't need to be done. But it would look a lot better. It could be somebody's project for sure.
You look at those effects for Babylon 5. That was early 90s CGI. And for early 90s CGI, that was pretty good. Because that same company
Really good.
would then move on to Deep Space Nine and Voyager and do renders for episodes of Deep Space Nine and Voyager. And imagine, doing, all the ships for Sacrifice of Angels. You don't just have Federation ships. You have Klingon ships. You have Cardassian ships. You have Dominion ships.
Yeah, in terms of like adding to in terms of my definition of a remaster, that doesn't mean changing everything. I mean, what was it called? What was it called? The Deep Space Nine documentary, What We Left Behind.
Yes.
Not a huge fan of that one. But it showed the remastered battle, the Dominion War. It looked cool. That's what I mean. Like, if we had that level of a remaster for shows like Babylon 5, sure, it could add to the immersion, but is it needed? I think it's needed for maybe movies like I was saying, like A New Hope, where the battle isn't really shown as much. Maybe we could do something like that, where, for instances, like in movies, we show more of the battles that, when people aren't talking, there should be, because back then they didn't have the technology to create stuff like that we have now. So what did they do as a replacement, as a workaround? They showed the inside of the ship. They made the camera shake as to give the illusion that the ship is shaking. So they didn't have that level of CGI that the Orville has, where the Orville presents perfectly what I'm trying to describe, is that every scene, every battle they get into, you see an outwards perspective of it. You see the ship fighting the other ship instead of like what's going on strictly inside. It's not that behind on technology. That's all I would do in terms of a remaster, but Babylon 5 is fine. It's perfect.
Like Deep Space Nine, when they had their big Dominion battle, it was great. I loved it. I loved every second of it. But it was
I'm
big
happy
though.
They didn't add anything else, like ships that weren't even there before. All they did was up the CGI, and that's it. They just left everything alone.
Yeah, but that was a big
honestly,
budget thing for them back then,
Yeah.
and they couldn't do it very often.
They can't. I don't think they still can. It's harder now because they don't have all of the stuff on film. From what I remember, the cameras they used for Deep Space Nine were a bit more convoluted, so it's harder to remaster or upscale those clips.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, like.
Well, even the company that did the remasters for What We Left Behind, they did it themselves.
Yeah.
It wasn't Paramount that gave them the money to do it. They did it themselves, and they showed after Paramount was saying it can't be done, they're like, oh yeah, take your can't be done, and we'll raise you. It can be done.
I think the part where they say it can't be done is just the upscaling part. That's the only hard part, to upscale the parts where you see Cisco and the I don't know what the actual terminology is for it, but the part where it's not like the outwards of the ship, but you see what's going on inside. You see the people. Those would be a lot harder to upscale because they need the actual footage. But in terms of just recreating the space fights, they can do that on a dime. They can easily do that. They should
still have the original footage because they used some of the original footage for What We Left Behind. And the original footage is actually in 16:9 and not the 4:3 aspect ratio that we always received.
Yeah.
They went into post and they put it into the 4:3.
Yeah. That's what's making it difficult though. That's why they were able to do it for What We Left Behind, but that probably took, minus the CGI battle, that upscaling scene probably took a while to do because they had to, make it back into 16:9 because, like you said, they forced it into 4:3, so that would have taken some work to change.
No, but they still had the original negatives that were in 16:9. That's how they were able to add them to What We Left Behind.
Okay, because what I was told is that they don't have all of them; they only have a few.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's never been done because it's taken so long. They haven't been able to gather all the clips together.
How do they not archive that?
That's just what I was told. I mean, if they actually have the footage somewhere, then I'm surprised I haven't seen this Deep Space Nine remaster like 3 years ago, if that's the case.
Well, their excuse is because the Next Generation remasters flopped. That's their excuse.
The ones on Netflix?
The ones that were released on Blu-ray and then put on Netflix and Amazon and whomever else had a contract with CBS Paramount.
Interesting. I didn't know they flopped. I watched the crap out of them.
That's what Paramount said. I mean, I bought all 7 seasons.
I'll have to look more into that. Maybe that's just their excuse for focusing more on New Trek instead.
I mean, I have season 4 right here since we're going through season 4 on Tuesday night.
Blu-ray, that's awesome. The remaster, like that, they did it for TOS too. They didn't really have to go so fully in depth with upscaling. They did, but they remastered. They put more of their efforts into the ship scenes. So the Enterprise looked completely different. It looked better, not different. You could actually tell that it was made out of metal and all of that. So I mean, that would be nice to see for certain shows. I just think for Babylon 5, like Tab was saying earlier, it was revolutionary for its time in terms of CGI, because the only other popular thing at the time was Deep Space Nine and TNG. So another show being able to match up to that quality it was kind of tough, and they did so perfectly.
Yep. I mean, going back to the 90s, since we've been talking about Babylon 5 and Deep Space Nine, and being able to watch the shows back to back in my area. I grew up in San Diego, so it was XCTV, the Fox affiliate there, that would air first Babylon 5 and then Deep Space Nine. So it was a nice block of sci-fi.
Both derivative of each other.
Mm-hmm.
I never got to watch Babylon 5 when it came out. We didn't have the station that aired it. But I got to watch Deep Space Nine, which is nice.
Yeah. So, Anono Mass, are you looking forward to season 3 of The Orville?
Oh God, yes. I need something good. I just watched the freaking Willow trailer for the TV season. It just, I just want to throw something on my monitor. So yeah, I need Orville. I need you to, be a light at the end of or it's not at the end of the tunnel, but just be a shining beacon in the midst of dark crap. So hopefully, I'm hoping and praying that Seth MacFarlane pulls this one off and gives us something awesome.
And I know people are going to say, Hulu, it's expensive, but I'm going to show you guys something. And I think with the months that they're allowing it for, I think you should be able to get through the Orville just fine for that 3 months. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Because, I know it gets expensive with everything else that's going on too. All these streaming services that you have to subscribe to in order to watch a show. But look, $1 a month for 3 months. You should be able to get through all 10 episodes of The Orville in those 3 months and then cancel your subscription.
There you go. It's easy as pie.
Mm-hmm.
And cheaper.
Yeah. Yes, you'll have to sit through 24-second commercials, but it's only 24 seconds.
Hey, we grew up in the 80s and 90s. We're used to commercials.
Yeah, one commercial after another.
Yep.
But there's an alternative. That's how I do it. When I see that a streaming service is having some sort of deal like that, I'll sign up for the terms of that deal and then I'll cancel.
There you go. I'm wondering when they're going to start maybe doing contracts, I guess. I would say contracts, but like making you sign up for 9 months or a year subscription before you can cancel without, losing any money.
I wouldn't be surprised if it happens sooner rather than later.
More than likely.
I mean, they're already, at least Netflix is, they're already trying to crack down on people who are sharing their accounts to multiple households.
Yeah. Don't share your password. That's stealing. Is it?
What does it matter if, the main account holder is the one that's paying for it?
Yeah. And the other ones aren't going to buy it.
Yeah.
Is usually because you share your password with somebody. Usually share your password with somebody who can't afford it or, has already gone 2 other streaming services and can't swing another one or, so maybe you just like swap passwords and because who wants to pay, we got away from cable TV for the same fact that it was costing a buttload of money. And now there's, 50 streaming services and you don't want to pay $10, $15, $20 a piece for them every month. You just right back to where you started and you get less content.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think they know that too. It's like when I heard of Paramount Plus being created, I'm like, oh, this is greed at its finest.
Mm-hmm.
It's, because it started with Netflix, then Hulu, then Disney Plus, then a bunch of other things. But honestly, the only, I guess you could say, ones you really do need, it's up to you. I would say Hulu for sure, especially if you're trying to watch The Orville and everything and some Hulu exclusives. And then the exclusives on Hulu are really good. Netflix depends. If you're watching Cobra Kai, for sure. If you're not watching Cobra Kai, there isn't really, there's The Witcher and all the other stuff, but there isn't really much reason to keep it, in my opinion. It's really pricey. It's just ridiculous because, like you said, it's become the same. We're going back to where we started with paying for different shows and different cable and everything like that. It's becoming the same price now when before this used to be the cheaper alternative, being able to get streamer services and everything.
Yeah, and that brings up another point I wanted to talk to you guys about, with that deal and with the Orville in particular, by the time the Orville's done, it's almost time for Cobra Kai season 4. Season 5, my bad. So, you're getting one good show and then you're getting another good show.
Yeah.
And the good shows are so few and far between now. It's not much of an incentive to purchase these streaming sites. I mean, most people have bowed out of like Stranger Things. They're not very hopeful for it. It's just, then you got anything on Disney sucks. So you're doomed there. A lot of people still won't go back to Netflix basically for cuties.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, what do you do?
Yeah. And here's the best piece of advice I can give. If you're paying for Paramount Plus simply to watch Star Trek, you're wasting your money. Just buy them on iTunes or buy the DVDs instead of paying for a subscription. If you're buying them to watch Strange New Worlds and all that stuff, or if you don't have it because you want to watch Strange New Worlds, you're not missing much. And there's no reason to give them that monthly subscription for crappy shows for like the ones they're putting out.
No.
The ones that are gold, like TNG, Deep Space Nine, they've been around for a long time, so you can purchase those on DVD or on iTunes. You don't have to worry about their only being available on a subscription. That's why I don't really... I haven't seen much of the other content on Paramount Plus, so I can't give a full opinion on it, but I see no reason for keeping that subscription other than Star Trek. What is the reason for paying for that at all?
There is none.
Yeah.
Especially when they don't have anything that will draw you in. Nothing. So it's like going to, a candy store and all you have is black licorice. You're not going to the candy store.
And even when you compare, buying new seasons of a Star Trek series, look at how much the first season of The Orville is. $12.99. Yes, I realize that with The Orville, you're getting less episodes than you would be with a, season of the original series, Next Gen, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise, but still, $13 for season 1. Let's see if they have season 2. I mean, even $18 isn't bad for season 2 of The Orville.
When I got rid of cable TV, that was my big point. It was like the amount of money I'm paying for cable television, I could buy probably 2 to 3 complete series of a TV show in a month and watch them that month on DVD. So why in the world would I pay for stuff I never watched? You flip through the channel, you flip through the channel, you flip through the channel, and it's just, then you rinse and repeat. Mm-hmm. So I'd rather throw my money down than I'm just wasting every month on something that I know I'm going to like and I'm going to keep and I'm going to have there on my shelf that I can watch anytime I want.
Yeah, it's I really, that's the only reason I see people paying for this is if they're trying to watch the new shows. What other reason is there? Seriously. It's just become annoying at this point for me personally. I know like people are be like, oh, you're gatekeeping and all this. You don't understand if you're saying that. If you were in my position, I'm sure a lot of you would understand that coming from where Star Trek has come from and where it is now and how should I say, how hard it is to watch now, because like the only way you can watch Discovery and all that is if you get Paramount Plus. I don't even think you can buy them on DVD. So yeah.
Brandon, if you'd like to join the panel, the link is on the very top. I'd love to hear your thoughts on The Orville, what you think of the show overall and what you think might happen in season 3, brother.
Brandon's awesome, guys. Go
Yes.
definitely subscribe to him.
Please subscribe to the anime guy.
And I also, Brandon, I just started watching Dragon Ball for the first time, so we gotta talk about that. But yeah,
The right one.
Discovery, honestly, the season 3 where it
And if
started
it isn't, I'll find one.
should have just been the first season.
Yeah.
But honestly, minus the horrible plot where the Federation is gone, I think the first season of Discovery should have just taken place in the future. But as for the plot and the story, give that to somebody else, because the Federation not existing anymore, or at least existing into tiny fragments, it's just stupid. That's not what is Star Trek really without Starfleet? I don't know.
It's
I mean,
a
you
complete
obviously can have a
teardown.
nice, yeah.
They had to tear it apart. They they want, I don't know what the incessant need is to change everything, is to break down what was there and tear it apart just to build something on top of it.
Yeah, because that's the only way they could see out of making a story. They can't. For some reason, it's impossible for them to think of an actual story in the already existing, timeline that we have.
Yeah,
I can't buy that. Like, how hard is it really to continue where we left off from Voyager? The easiest thing you can do is just kind of explain tiny bits of what happened to the Voyager crew, give us a bit of continuity, and then build up a new crew. I told Brian about this, Nerdporeal, that I have a funny, script idea or a show idea, and I'm not a director or anything by means, but I know what people, Star Trek fans want to see, and that's the continuation of the universe of the timeline after Deep Space Nine. And sure, there could be some good prequels, but I think as for prequels go, Star Trek Enterprise covered it perfectly. So there shouldn't really there isn't really a need for another prequel. That's why I saw Discovery as a waste of time. Why do we need a show 10 years before Kirk? What's so significant about that? Anyways,
well, that's one thing that I like about the Orville is that we're just getting into this universe, so anything is possible in this universe.
Anything.
It's not confined to something that's happened before or since, like Star Trek with the original series, Next Gen, and all that.
Yeah, and listen to what the Orville did, though. See, they proved that they could create and make new stories that are even relevant to our time, but it's still set in the future that isn't pandering or derivative of like Strange New Worlds does. They talk like they're in 2022. They talk to each other. They act like they're on an episode of Friends, and they can't
it's hard to explain. I know what you mean. It's the hardest thing to put into words, the way they act on that show compared to
it's not a military
seen. Yeah, it's not military. There's no sense of chain of command in those shows anymore.
No.
I honestly hated the story. I didn't really fully understand it myself, but how World War III led to the eugenics wars and all of that crap.
Civil War led
Civil
to
War, whatever it was it flew over my head. Wars. It was so dumb.
God. They invented that and put it in a completely different time. They moved the eugenics wars from 92 to 96 up to our date. So the Civil War that was created by people with competing ideas of liberty moved it into the eugenics wars and then to World War III. It was so moronic. I couldn't believe what I was hearing.
Yeah, it was really bad. Because the thing is, Star Trek, each episode, or especially if we're talking about the Orville deals with different things every time, either about racism, social acceptance, whatever. It always deals with a brand new thing. Like you said, it never panders to one thing only. And
it doesn't beat you over the head with it either.
Yeah, exactly. And
even when Alara was in command of the ship and Bortus had to tend to his egg, Alara had to learn to make the tough decisions and get the crew behind her.
Exactly. It's a military story. That's what it is always. It has those family moments. It deals with political problems, but in the end, this is just about the crew. This is about them and their experience through these 7 seasons or whatnot, and how they act with each other and how they evolve, I guess you could say. That's what Star Trek's about. It's always about the people. It's about the crew. It's not about the ship battles or the lasers or the planets exploding. It's about the people.
Yeah, that's all that other stuff is secondary, although necessary.
Yeah.
But
they have to be, if they're going to include that, they should at least be cool. You know, I think J.J. Abrams is okay with doing that stuff because, you know, he's a Star Wars kind of guy. He like that. You could say that J.J. trilogy is Star Wars pretty much because the CGI is very reminiscent. But the thing is, he's good at the CGI, you know, screenplay and all of that. I wouldn't mind if they used J.J. Abrams solely just for that because CGI, yeah, he's a good one. As for story writing and directing, not so much. But you know, it's mainly just about the people. And if you venture off from that and you just, like you said, just pander and force feed your audience to believing one thing, and that's what the entire show is going to be talking about. I'm not really putting it in the best of words, but it's like I said, it's really hard to explain what the attitude of Star Trek is now compared to what it was previously. But as a fan, you can notice the shift. You can notice that there is a complete difference in what the focus is now compared to what it was before.
Yep. And then to be honest with you, like when the Bortus episode where where they had to take their kid back to Mocklin to get her a sex change, you know, that kind of that kind of stuff challenges you because you can look at it from 2 different perspectives. You have to wonder in your head, is this a trans allegory, but reversed? You know what I'm saying? It's the forced change is the change in gender is forced on them, and at an early age, and you know, Bortus hates it and he doesn't want it, and he knows it isn't right.
Yeah,
and it challenges you. It really does.
That's what Star Trek used to do.
It I don't know exactly if I'm correct in this. It deals with, you know, transgender. It deals with very hard-hitting topics that people talk about every day. But it, like Star Trek, it sets up those stories in a unorthodox scenario. So instead of, you know, humans dealing with this, it's the Mocklins. And the Mocklins have a tradition where their entire, well, not tradition, but their entire planet are male. But are they really? You know, we already know what the real story is. But anyways, it's like they're set up in unorthodox scenarios, but we all know what they're speaking at. We all know what they're trying to address. It's just not like, you know, like Discovery. It's not shoved down your throat in an article like the next character is going to be non-binary or something. Like, why do we need to know that? Just explain. Is that the actor you're talking about, or is that the character? And if that's the case, why do we need to know that? Just explain that in the show.
Because they won't put a gay character in there without them actually being gay.
Yeah.
So
I've seen that. You didn't even hear. I've seen that done before with actors who aren't. But yeah, I know what you mean. They wouldn't do that.
Yeah, they advertise it like it's something to do. And even with like the Mocklins themselves, they didn't, like, they're all technically gay. I know they lay eggs and whatnot, but technically they're all male and they're all, you know, a whole planet full of gay guys. They didn't say anything about that before the show came out. They didn't like, hey, look what we got. We got a whole planet full of homosexuals. No, they didn't do that.
And you know what? We as fans, we've accepted these characters. We've accepted the Mocklin culture.
Yeah, we can debate about it. We can talk about it. And we can, you know, this isn't right, or that's all right. This isn't the way it should be. I don't know, how can they do that sort of thing? Or, you know, we can set it up for debate within, you know, our own fellowship, I guess. So, and that's what they try to do. That's what they're supposed to do, actually.
One thing that really annoys me is people compare the reactions to how people are with Discovery Now and basically New Trek, they compare those reactions to how people reacted when TNG first came out. How are they at all similar? Sure, people were, very skeptical at the beginning because everybody was used to Kirk. Nobody else was Star Trek except Kirk. But it still told
Kirk,
the
Spock,
same
and
story.
McCoy. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's this French guy? What the crap's going on here?
Because
who's this
everyone will
French
say,
guy
maybe
with
the
a British
first season.
accent?
I like the first season. Maybe it's because I like the 80s cheesiness, but a lot of people will agree that the first one isn't the best one, and then eventually it starts to work up to what everyone knows is TNG.
Yeah,
But
just like every show, it gets its footing
they
from the
did
first
something
season.
that they don't do now. In the first season of TNG, is arguably the most TOS kind of feeling. They bridge the two very nicely. They're trying to not alienate TOS fans. So what do? They direct it very similarly like they did with TOS. And then eventually, as time goes on, they find their footing, like you said, and expand the universe and give us a bigger picture of what Star Trek is. And they did that in a very intellectual way. The stories were all smart. There wasn't just stupid dialogue of characters yammering and hugging each other and saying dumb
Crying.
jokes. Like the Orville, they do dumb jokes, but like I said, it's timed well. That's something Star Trek could have used more of.
Yeah,
Sure.
and that was, and they came out of the gate, telling you that it was going to be a comedy. It was going to be more
Yeah.
funny. So this is the
And it
rules of
wasn't
their
a big
universe, and you
deal,
know what you were
'cause
getting.
It's not a Star Trek show, so we can all accept that. Because
Right.
with Lower Decks, even though they told us it's going to be a comedy, why do we need a comedy in Star Trek? Why?
we don't.
We need
don't.
we need more, quips and sure, we need people to act a little bit more like they do in the Orville. Sure.
Well, the
don't
comedy in
need-
Star Trek needs to be more dry, be more
Yeah.
intellectual comedy.
Exactly. There you go. Because like Data, how he makes jokes. They're not really taken as jokes, but when we watch it, they're funny because he's an android and everything he, says is and thinks about it's really funny because he's thinking in a non-human way. So it makes us very entertaining to watch.
Yeah,
That's
and
smart
even
humor.
and even the crew will have like a cheap little jab at him and a laugh at his expense sometimes,
Mhm.
and it'll be funny, and it'll be in tone
Yeah.
with the show.
Very wholesome. That's what it should still be. It has to be very wholesome. Can't just be like, "Oh, kiss my ass, sir."
Yeah.
I hate that kind of stuff. It's not funny.
No,
It's
as soon as
just-
I heard the first F word in Star Trek Discovery, I was out. I was done. I was like, this isn't Star Trek at
Yeah, it was
all.
bad.
Well,
Honestly, I can't remember it. The first F-bomb I heard in New Trek was in Picard when he went to the Admiral, what's it called?
Yeah.
Romulan
Sure.
infiltrator, and she's like, the fucking arrogance. I'm like, you bastard.
Yeah. Did you not watch Star or STD?
Yeah, because STD
I
had
did.
an F
I
bomb
only
in there.
watched the first 2 seasons like a long time ago, so I forgot.
Well, yeah, it was a third episode it was in, and they were like, "This is effing awesome" or "cool" or something. I can't remember, but it was just
they would
her
say
and
something
Tilly
like that,
both.
though.
I think it was Tilly saying this is so effing cool or something like that.
Yeah, and then she repeated it. Yeah, this is effing cool. It's like, no, this is not. I'm done. See ya.
And I'm so tired of Michael Burnham getting so much hype for no reason. She's such an influential character. What she said that's so influential? Her 3-word monologue. The Federation. No, sorry, it's more than 3 words. The Federation is its people. Wow, that was that really hit home, Michael Burnham. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for reminding me.
profound. So profound.
I
Yeah, that's
you
what
look at Deep Space Nine. We're getting back to the comedy bits. You knew if it was a Ferengi centric episode, it was going to be comedy because that's what
It'd
the
be
Ferengi
funny.
became.
Yeah. There was it was something to do. I mean, they changed the Ferengi from what we first saw in TNG to what we got in DS9, which was fine. To be frank, I didn't really find the Ferengi in the first episode where they first appeared to be all that great. But I think they developed into something unique and likable.
Yeah, because a lot of that credit goes to Armin Shimmerman, who was Quark.
Yeah,
Yep, and Rom.
and Rom, yeah. Moogie.
I want my Moogie.
Oh yeah, I forgot. That's what Hilly said. Hilly is probably or Tilly, whatever her name is the most annoying character for me. I'm sorry. I know her actress is trying her best, but I don't know. Just not a fan of her actress either. It's just the way she speaks.
Yeah,
Acts like a excited little child in a donut shop.
It's like she's been to a few donut shops.
And for any of the characters on that show to act the way they do, that would have never been seen in any other iteration of Star Trek. And getting back to the Orville, we do see the characters act silly. We see them act silly with one another, but you can also tell that they've developed a friendship, a family atmosphere, because that's what that crew is. That crew literally is a family. They have each other's back. Even Isaac, when he was, put to the test to kill Ty, he didn't kill Ty. He went after the prime leader and took his head off.
Because even the androids can learn a sense of family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just not the androids and Picard.
No.
Which plot always escapes me? I forget. Was it like a fourth dimension thing where it was all AIs coming out? I forget if that was what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
space
was a
tentacles.
tentacle AI monster that was coming
Stupid.
after him.
Why is it always tentacles? I don't get it.
And let's
Someone's
not
a
forget
fan of hentai in their apartment.
Yeah.
the flowers in space. The flowers in space. Let's
With
not forget
tentacles.
that. Oh boy. I mean,
It's just what the hell, They couldn't think of a better story or a better threat than that. What if they just made Q the threat again? Like, he's not technically easily changed to be a good guy. I mean, after he was done playing around with Picard, he went to Cisco, and after he started playing around with Cisco, he went to Janeway. And he bounces around a lot, so he's kind of like, at this point, he's a tradition. You have to have him in a Star Trek show. And at some cases, it would be pretty interesting if he was the build-up for one of the seasons. Like, what if we see an actual better picture of the Q continuum? Or better yet, instead of Q being the threat, how come the Undine aren't the threat? Because at this point, from what I've heard in Star Trek Online, the Undine have traveled from the Delta Quadrant all the way to the Alpha Quadrant, and now there is a war, because they are... It's not like a very noticeable war like the Klingons, because the Undine are able to basically shapeshift and make themselves look like humans. So it's like it's a very silent war. A lot of them
An infiltration war.
Yeah, it's like an infiltration war. So that should be what one of the shows should be about right now, dealing with the Undine. But of course they won't do that.
Well, no.
They have better ideas.
Better, yeah. Quotation mark, air quotes.
well, it's like Dr. Girardi and Picard, from the clips I've seen, becoming basically an offshoot of the Borg, and that offshoot's Borg Queen, and then saying we would like admittance into the Federation. If it were me, I'd be like, hell no. Lock all phasers and quantum torpedoes and photon torpedoes and fire.
And you're talking about Picard, right? Because
Yes.
Queen,
Yes. I'm talking about Picard. I'm not talking about the Borg Queen that we knew.
No, because I'm unaware of what they're doing in Discovery 2, so I wasn't sure which one you were referring. But I know a little bit about Picard, and I've seen the trailers. The Borg Queen makeup looks horrible. I don't like it at all. And why is she the threat? I thought Janeway already eradicated her.
Yeah. See, Unimatrix 01 was destroyed at the end of Endgame.
The Borg, sure, they weren't fully destroyed. Sure, but the
No,
big
but
chunk of their
Unimatrix 01 was.
Yeah, their entire, what's it called, system to be able to transwarp to the Alpha Quadrant, that was destroyed. So how are they? I don't know. It's
thinking
just
such two-dimensional thinking there. With them, they can do anything they want with Borg, and I think they set that up in First Contact, where they thought, what was it? She told him that you think in such two dimensions or something like that.
Yeah,
And,
you think in such two-dimensional terms.
yeah, so it's like, oh, I'm the Borg Queen here, but I can also be kind of insinuating I could be the Borg Queen somewhere else too. I can transfer my consciousness, or I can just rebuild myself somewhere else. Or
I don't know about that.
I don't know.
Is that what the story is? Because I don't know. I don't buy that at all. Because wasn't she half organic too? Because she couldn't really leave her body, from what I was aware.
No,
she was half human too, or something.
If you recall in First Contact, once Data broke the seal for the coolant for the warp engines, more specifically the warp core, her organic half disappeared because of the coolant.
Yeah, but was she a copy of another?
Possibly.
Yes. Yeah, I mean,
but she was back in time. So how does that? There's a lot of gray area here.
It's a weird. It's a weird choice they made to make her the threat of the show. I was not expecting that at all. I thought Picard's show was going to deal more about him reuniting with the original crew, or not all of them obviously, but the ones he could at least reunite with, and do what they did before and explore places together. Honestly, that's what I thought the show was going to be about, not just some overly dramatic seasonal arc about the first one being about the Romulans possibly adapting the Borg technology, and then 2, now having to do something about the Borg Queen. And keep in mind, I didn't see season 2. I saw season 1, and they have a weird choice of world-ending threats, and that's been the case since Discovery as well. They don't know what they want to do. That's just my thought. They're making Star Trek simply for the fact that they're making Star Trek. They're able to put out the title, and if they're able to put out the title, they know that people are going to spend money to watch it, even though it's crap. Because Star Trek, the name itself, is worth a lot.
Well, that's going to bring me back to the Orville. With the Kalon being the threat, and the Krill saying in the season 3 trailer that you can travel through our space, but don't expect us to help you. You can pretty much guarantee that at some point during the season, the Krill are going to say, crap, we got to help.
Either that or turn on them.
Yeah. My ideas for a show that should have happened after Star Trek Enterprise is what kind of what that tab that shouldn't be there said, where it should have focused more on the 28th, 29th century. Because we already know Daniels, we know the Enterprise J, so that was a perfect setup for a next show. Why did they just scrap it? We could have seen more about the Enterprise J. And sure, a lot of people aren't a fan of that ship. I actually like it. It looks pretty cool. And there's also a huge mystique to it, because you see how thin the saucer is on the Enterprise J. You kind of wonder, how are people able to walk around in that? It's because the technology is just completely advanced, and that's interesting. That is intriguing. I would love to learn more about the 29th century.
Even though it wouldn't have been based in the 29th century, Michael Dorn himself had pitched a Worf series.
Or Worf series. That would have been cool.
Yes.
As long as it doesn't have the same creative team it has now. Because right now, the thinking process is not good. They want to make it very edgy, the most they can. And also at the same time, introduce a lot of status quo. So, now, 7 of 9, I heard, kisses another lady at the end of the show.
Yeah, she's bisexual.
Yeah, I've never... if that was the case, then we would have seen hints of that in Voyager, and she was on Voyager for like 3 seasons, maybe 4. So we would have definitely seen hints of that, but she was always attracted to men. Harry Kim being the first. After that, the Doctor possibly, even though that should have really been, pushed more.
That really should have been the relationship. I know some people might say, really a biological and a hologram? Because they were that close, it would have worked.
Well, the thing is, people...
It'd be no different than Data.
Yeah. I think it's just people arguing for the sake of arguing. There's nothing weird about that at all. Because she's a Borg. If you're saying that's not weird, then your definition of weird is confusing. Because it's not supposed to make sense half the time. But it does to a core. 7 of 9 and the Doctor both have very similar life experiences. That's why they connect so perfectly. And other than that, why is it wrong for the Doctor to have a relationship?
It's not.
He's sentient as far as I'm concerned, as much as a human is. That's
Close
just
as you can get it.
Yeah, and that's the most amazing thing about the hologram technology that they don't even go into anymore. We barely even see that. We saw that in Picard with the holographic Doctor who looks exactly like the pilot, which is really stupid, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not really dived into anymore at all, and that was one of the best parts about Voyager was the Doctor and seeing how sentient he becomes throughout the years and really trying to puzzle yourself, wow, how advanced is the technology in the 24th century, and you can only imagine how much more advanced it gets when you reach the 29th. That would have set up a perfect show. But besides that, the one I have more grounded and I've actually written down is a show about Jake Sisko. And everybody was like, well, why would we need a show about him? He's a writer now, right? Because he's going off to become a writer. That's not necessarily the case. If everyone remembers the episode, and sorry, the name escapes me, the Jake Sisko episode where he becomes an old man. Visitor, sorry, yeah, the Visitor. He basically he becomes a writer, right? But he knows that his dad is still out there and he has that chance of still saving him. So what does he do? Mm-hmm. Even though he's gone through all the years without his dad, realizing he's dead, that small glimmer of hope that his dad is still out there made him stop his writing, give up his marriage, sadly, and then find maybe 20 years to save a way to figure it out to save his dad. Okay, so keep that in mind. What happened to Sisko at the end of Deep Space Nine? He became a prophet. So thus, the Visitor kind of still happened. Jake grew up without a dad, and his dad is now in the Bajoran wormhole. Well,
not only that,
yeah.
Sisko was marrying Cassidy Yates, and they were expecting a son. Well, that son, all that son probably would know of is, yes, the emissary. Who's the emissary, Mom? Your father. He was also the captain of the space station.
Yeah. So Cirque Lofton's character, if he knows that Jake Sisko, if he knows his dad is still out there, either in the Bajoran wormhole or whatever, he's a prophet now and he's not technically dead, I don't think Jake would want to stay on Earth. He would...
Oh, he'd be in the Bajoran system.
He'd probably enlist to Starfleet, just to find any way at all to be closer to his dad. And that could set up a good show right there, with him having his own crew.
If you remember what Captain Sisko says to Cassidy in What We Leave Behind, is that he will return one day. But he doesn't specify when he's going to return. He just says he will return one day.
Yeah. And one good catalyst for that happening is because of Jake. Jake also has prophet blood. You can't deny that. He is a son of Sisko, and Sisko was half a prophet, so that makes Jake Sisko a quarter of a prophet, probably. So, it's possible that he could become the catalyst for his dad to return or something. Avery Brooks makes a reappearance, maybe not for the entire show, but for an episode or a couple episodes. He's there, and he guides Jake to becoming a better commander or something, whatever he is. I honestly think a show about Jake Sisko would not flop. It would, if it's directed the same way The Orville is, where you're introduced to Sarah Clofton as the main captain, and him having a bunch of, you know, crewmates, subordinates, whatever have you, and it's directed the same way Deep Space Nine is, where you care about every single one of those characters. There's like another Chief O'Brien kind of character, somebody who's really good at engineering. You have somebody as strong-willed as Kira. Just like bring back that same Deep Space Nine feeling. That's what we all loved. Why alienate us from all of that again, you know?
The only thing I wouldn't do in that scenario, Spock, is I wouldn't recast Nog.
Oh, no.
I
no.
wouldn't do it.
No, definitely not. That's the one thing I don't know how to explain is what's going on with Nog. You know, because unfortunately, Aaron Eisenberg is not with us anymore, so it's tougher to come up with a story. Maybe he's serving
They
somewhere.
could say that he's either serving somewhere, you know, he's captaining a ship in deep space, or something happened where he lost his life in the line of duty.
I think the would be a really good thing if they started the show off at Nog's funeral.
Yeah.
You know, just
that would
come
be,
out,
yeah.
come out of the gate, give him a tribute.
That's honestly the easiest way, because thinking about it, it's like you could say he's serving somewhere else, but he deserves more than just an off-screen, you know, ship off. He definitely, if he's gonna, if they have to say that Nog unfortunately has passed away, then yeah, a funeral is the best call, because at least we have a whole scene dedicated to Aaron Eisenberg, and and not only that, his best friend Jake Sisko is there, you know, like DJ Ronnie said, a respectful send-off. We have Jake Sisko, you know, tearing up, mourning the loss of his friend. It sets up a very depressing beginning, but that's the best way you can explain what's happened to Nog, you know, I mean, and it should be in the beginning. I wouldn't want his funeral to be later on or something, because everyone knows Aaron Eisenberg is not with us anymore, and he was a big part of Deep Space Nine. He should be tributed in the first episode if this show were to happen. And that's the best time we could ever see Aaron Eisenberg's character Nog, because Jake Sisko and him were best friends. And if we're going to have a show about Jake Sisko, we're most likely going to see what's going on with Nog.
True, and you know, the fact that should it be also brought up the point, why would Jake have to enlist into Starfleet when all he would have to do is take a ship or even a shuttlecraft or a runabout into the wormhole, or visit the Bajoran temple on the station and commune with the orb?
Well, that's not the point. He's trying to make.
I know.
No, I know. I'm responding to Shade Tabs, because it's not about, you know, just him flying in there to see his dad every once in a while to have a picnic. It's about honoring his memory and his head. He's probably thinking, my dad would be very proud of me if I was doing the same thing he did, if I was following in his footsteps. Sure, he would be proud of me regardless if I was a writer, but imagine how happy he would be to see that I was following in his footsteps of being a commander or a captain one day. I honestly think that would set up a better story than just him visiting his dad once in a while in the wormhole. I don't even think his dad would pop out if he just came in the wormhole, because it's mainly a use of transportation. It's just that the wormhole, its energy is so fundamentally different than anything we know that we can't just ring them up and say, hey, can we talk to you real quick? They'll appear whenever they feel like appearing.
Yeah,
So,
Jake will fill Sisko's presence because he's a Cisco, and you know, it's not going to be when Jake expects it. Jake's going to have it occur at a time when he least expects it, or he's going to see something that's going to make him go, Dad?
And the reason I open up with a proposition for a Cisco, you know, Jake Sisko show is because that's one of the only characters, you know, who's, I wouldn't say the only, but he's one of the only who is pretty young right now. He's only in his 30s, and he is a big part of Deep Space Nine. So
Actually, Sirach Lofton is around my age.
how old is he again?
He's around my age. I'm 44. I think he's 43. I'm going to look it up real quick.
Yeah, nevertheless, he's way younger than, the TNG and TOS actors. Obviously, excluding Will Wheaton, but I don't think anyone wants to see a show on Wesley. Anyways, Jake Sisko, he was one of my favorite characters in Deep Space Nine, even though he wasn't really, I would say, the main one, because we did have episodes for him, but he wasn't in every episode. He honestly always set up that, that story for me that after this show ends, it's going to continue with Jake, because Jake has gone through everything. He's been through the Dominion War. He's been through everything his dad's gone through, except obviously he hasn't been negotiating and doing everything like his like Sisko has. He's just been on the sidelines watching all of it happen. But at the same time, he's experienced everything. He's gone through the same turmoil the rest of the station has gone through. It's like saying, yeah.
Well, I was thinking I would even mind if Jake was actually still a writer and he was traveling, the cosmos on a ship, maybe with a crew, a specific crew or whatever, just experiencing the galaxy, experiencing everything, and getting into whatever situations they could, or exploring that side of him of adventure that he went on with his dad, and writing about it at the end of every episode or something.
Honestly, this sounds like a better show than what we're getting now, and I don't want to be rude, Tab, but it would be better than what you're proposing, because him just flying in the Bajoran wormhole to see his dad and that's it wouldn't really set up for a good show at all. I'm trying to think in terms of there being a setup for a show, and Sirach Lofton is the best choice, unless you guys can think of somebody different.
No, it would have to be Sirach Lofton. You don't want someone else cast as Jake Sisko. If there's anyone that should be Jake Sisko, it's Sirach Lofton, who's Jake Sisko.
Yeah, honestly, just go back to the roots. Why should we have a show about a character we've never seen before? You could, but I'd rather see a show on somebody we have seen before and didn't get much story on, like Jake Sisko, and how much potential he could have.
He's still acting, so it's not like you'd be pulling him out of mothballs and having him rehearse his lines and try to memorize those lines at the same time.
I think it's too easy.
Acted in years.
Yeah, I think it's too easy to describe the wormholes and the prophets just by what we think. Like for example, Shade is saying since he's the Sisko, he can pop out whenever he wants. Nobody knows that. We don't know anything about the prophets fully. How do we know Sisko is allowed to leave? He could not be allowed to leave. He's like it was shown earlier. He's not even allowed to have a wife. So you think they're just gonna let him wander free and do whatever he wants? Doubtful.
But because Sisko says, I will return, it makes you think and believe that the prophets will let him return one day. Just not yet, because he still has a lot to learn.
And who would be the happiest to see him return? Jake Sisko.
Yeah, and they can even hint at it, like he could be somewhere around Bajor and or Deep Space Nine, make a visit or whatever. And he comes across the orb, and his dad appears to him and to kind of hint at his return later on. He's like, not now, but later. I'll be coming back, sort of thing. And then, but I need you to do this. I need you to, go in search of something, or set the whole thing up for me for my return.
Yeah.
But nowadays they'd probably make a show about Kiriyoshi. She'd be the best botanist captain ever.
Or Molly O'Brien.
Or Molly, either one.
She's a better engineer than her father ever was.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, if we were going to catch up with any characters, I want to catch up with Dr. Bashir. Yes, some people might say, but he started off so annoying. But he grew into a character we all appreciated, which is the same thing we're already seeing with the Orville. These characters are growing into characters that we appreciate. I have a feeling that, as far as Isaac is concerned, he's going to be going through some similar story lines that Odo went through when Odo was separated from his people. And, you know, once he found his people and then they found out that he killed another changeling, how they punished him. And, we're going to see something like that, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of story arcs they could throw into that and make it, as long as they just don't blatantly rip off Deep Space Nine and the Odo stuff, and which I don't think they will, because they're actually pretty decent writers on that show. So yeah, they can go in all kinds of different directions with that story arc.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't want them to completely rip off Deep Space Nine, but it should carry that, and it's not just from Deep Space Nine, but it should carry that format where you eventually get to know every single member of the crew, right? And then after you get to know every single one of them, then there's a conflict that happens, and each of them show their own different talents, their own different skills. That's what's Star Trek has solely been about. It's each person's talent, each person's contribution to the crew, and eventually how they all work together in the end. It's like I said, it's always just about the crew. And if we can have another Star Trek show that focuses on that again, like the Orville does, it will be easily a successful show, easily. No matter who you're making the show on, even if it's about a random Ferengi on Ferenginar, who cares? As long as it's just a bunch of randoms, but you direct it in the way Star Trek has always been, formatted, it's going to be successful no matter what you're doing. You just have to make sure that the writing makes sense, the continuity makes sense, that's it. And that applies to any franchise. You can't just make a TV series or spin-off that completely goes off the rails from what other previous shows have stated. Then there's the continuity errors. And there's those are the plot holes that people get confused about, and there starts the schisms in the fan base. Yeah. You don't want schisms in the fan base. You want the fan base to be in agreement with. Sometimes there's always going to be a healthy debate, but most of the time, everyone likes the same thing. It's not that case anymore for Star Trek. It's just not. People are more on the side for Kurtzman, and then now people are more on the side for, I guess you could say the Rick Berman era, or before that even the TOS era. More people are on the side of classic Trek. So the schism does not need to happen, but they've done it to themselves by completely going off the continuity. They've done that to themselves. Well, they could have easily just made a show that continued right after Voyager or in the 29th century.
Yeah,
they dig themselves a hole, like a certain somebody does on The View. They dig themselves a deeper hole every time they try to make a prequel, because they just don't know how to add up the continuity, and then there goes the hate comments. And there's people a lot more worse than me. If I had to honestly describe myself as a new Trek hater, I'm very I'm very calm about it compared to other people, because there are some who really send death threats. They're a lot worse than me. So I'm just giving my honest opinion from a calm person point of view, somebody who's not crazy, somebody who honestly enjoys sci-fi. What's coming out right now has not intrigued any of my interest at all. It's just there for the sake of action now. That's it. That's just it. It's like they think Star Trek now is just about phaser battles and all of that, when really
isn't it though? I mean, that's what drew me to Star Trek. I'm kidding, folks. I'm kidding. Here,
no, a lot of people.
I've got
there's
the
some
perfect
people
clip. Let me get to
it.
I will, because this is what a lot of people will probably be saying. Actually, I have two clips. I'll play two clips. Yeah, Star Trek's always been about, the booms and plumes of fire and explosions. Isn't that right?
How about no?
And of course, since we're talking the Orville,
You will be silent!
Yeah, it's yeah. Like I respect. There's some friends I have that I seriously have some respect for because they've been honest with me. They didn't just lie saying, "Oh yeah, I've been a Star Trek fan since the original series and everything. My mom showed it to me as a kid." They've honestly come out to me saying, "I saw Star Trek 2009. That was the first Star Trek I ever saw. Was it my favorite? No, but I thank it for the fact that it made me watch the old stuff." That is something I respect. I don't know if that's what's happening right now with New Trek. I don't know if it's convincing any of them to watch the old stuff, but from what I've seen personally, just on Twitter, people talk about the classic Trek, and they'll say that they're an honest Discovery fan. They'll say, classic Trek is so bad. It's so much worse. Like, the storytelling in Discovery is just a lot easier to understand. When you see stuff like that, you can tell they didn't watch the original stuff. They didn't bother to watch it. They just saw the
Or they
images.
watched one episode, and these are the people I like to call DIMS, where the intellectual writing of old Trek, TNG, Deep Space
Just
Nine,
flies over their head.
flies over their freaking head, and that's why it's easier to understand this new
because
stuff.
They're used to all the action. That's all they want. Action.
Yeah,
You know,
and dumb dialogue.
Yeah, and I've had some friends who were like that. They said, I got into 2009, so I actually really like Star Trek. So what did I do? I started rewatching the old stuff. I didn't like it at first. I thought it was very boring compared to what I saw before. And of course, that's a natural reaction. If you're coming from 2009 and you saw all that action-packed stuff and you're going to the TOS, of course there's going to be a decline in action. But if you continue watching it, you don't know what you're missing. There is some thought-provoking episodes, and that's what Star Trek was about. And my friends have come to say, like, how did I ever watch the JJ stuff? How did I ever watch those movies? Because now that I'm watching the original stuff, I have no interest in watching JJ Trek or Kurtzman Trek at all, because none of them are as thought-provoking as the original series, or hell, the TNG series. None of them have that same kind of depth to them.
Yeah,
that's the same reaction I've gotten from 3 of my friends. It's incredible, because those are the people I respect. But the ones who say, "Oh, the only Star Trek I've seen is Discovery, and the old ones suck," then how can you make that opinion if you've never even seen them, or at least just seen one episode? You can't say that.
I like ship explode.
I've seen a lot of episodes of New Trek, so I can personally say that they're bad. I have every right to say that because I've actually watched them. But people who say classic Trek is bad, most of the time they never even bother to watch it.
Yep.
And the annoying ones to me are the ones who say, "Oh, I've been a fan for 30 years and I like the new stuff way more." Then you're doing yourself a disservice and you have to rewatch the old stuff if that's the case. Or they're just lying, because I couldn't really believe anybody who comes as big fans from the TOS series or TNG has a strong appreciation towards Discovery. Because if you are classic Trek fans, no matter what year you were born, if you've watched the classic Trek and that's what you love, everybody will agree that what's out now is lazier. It's just lazier.
Yeah.
well, it's like Kurtzman saying that, the reason why they came Prodigy was to have an animated series that kids could gravitate to. Well, Kurtzman, I'm going to debunk that and say I was 7 years old when I started watching the original series, and it was tomorrow's yesterday. I'm watching.
It kept you glued to the TV too, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Yeah, you don't need stupid, dumbed down cartoons to bring in kids. If you teach them well and develop their brains, they will gravitate to this kind of entertainment. And but right now they're making it for stupid people that don't want to think.
The reason they're making Lower Decks and they say it's for kids is because the live action shows they have out now are just way too they're almost rated R, you could say. So
F-bomb here, there, F-bomb there.
They're definitely not made for kids, but that was never the case for Star Trek. Star Trek was family friendly. It always was, even the original series. As a little kid, I got into the original series, so that says a lot. Even as a little kid, you can get into that stuff. It doesn't matter what age you are. It's just that now they feel the need to make cartoons because what they have as live action right now is too adult for kids. That doesn't have to be the case. Why don't you just make the live action shows family friendly again? What's wrong with that? And 2005 Enterprise was not too long ago. Just make the same thing. Jesus Christ.
And in some respects, you can get your kids into the Orville. You just have to mind,
We
the
gotta cover their
jokes.
ears for some parts.
Yeah. Earmuffs. But
what was?
Go ahead, Anono Mass.
I just got done watching season 2 to kind of catch up. I don't remember what's about the Orville that the kids can't see. I don't. Name me a scene. I missed it, I guess.
So, some of the jokes, some of the innuendo type jokes.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's Seth MacFarlane, so
Yeah. There are parents who are gonna probably let their kids, watch any show, and it's like, I don't care what's said in the show. The kids can watch it.
Yeah, the Orville would not have been something my mom and dad would have kept me from watching.
Same with my mom and dad. I used to watch Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th movies when I was growing up.
Yep, they ran them and just set us down in front of it. Good luck, boys.
Or
hope you don't have nightmares tonight.
Not even that. Sometimes my parents would let us rent it because they knew we didn't take it seriously. It's like it's just a movie.
Yep, because we knew better back then. It's just entertainment. It's not real. And even when you're a kid, and you're watching horror movies, your parents kind of reinforce that it's not real. It's just a movie. So, you got that. But we based all our viewing habits off of that sort of thing. It's just something some people just don't grasp nowadays, I think.
I mean, so many kids, especially in the 90s when it was, spiking up again in popularity, got injured for wrestling maneuvers that they would imitate after watching WCW or WWF. And
yeah, we did our fair share of wrestling. But we always did it on our bed and stuff like that, practicing suplexes and figure fours and stuff like that. We tried to be as safe as possible because nobody wanted a broken leg, but we came pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, when you're growing up and you're watching that, you want to imitate some of what you see, but then that's where the parents step in and say, no, you're not going to imitate that.
Yeah. Only if I had good parents.
Well, I mean, heck, there are times where I would ride my bike and there's a ditch. It's like, okay, let's see if I can jump this ditch.
Yep. Oh man, we'd get your cinder block in a piece of plywood.
Mm-hmm.
Do the best you can. Evel Knievel.
Yep. I mean, Evel Knievel. I did that a few times going down a hill, and I would wipe out sometimes, and because I was going
bike with no brakes.
I had my brakes go out on me one time when I was going down a hill, and I'm all, oh shit.
Yeah, I almost got hit by a car doing that. 4-way intersections. I mean, steep hill too. No brakes on the bike. That was close.
Yeah, I mean, when I was going down this one hill one time, and my brakes went out, I knew I only had a few moments to decide what I was going to do. And I was thinking, well, there's the oncoming traffic. There's the corner. I'm going to try to make the corner, but I was fully ready to make impact with the asphalt. And that's what I did.
Yeah.
I had my helmet on.
It's road rash or death.
Yep.
Take the road rash.
Yep. Because when my parents saw me when I got home, they're all, "What happened to you?" I said, "Well, my brakes went out, so I had to make a quick decision: either hit the road or get hit by a car."
I think you made the right one.
Yeah. Let's see. The tab that shouldn't be says, "In my Italian American community, we learned wrestling as a skill from childhood before we even saw WWF."
Yeah, kids grapple, man. If you got a brother, sisters not so much, but if you grew up with a brother, older brother, younger brother, it didn't matter. You guys were fighting like cats and dogs. Mom just yelling at you every day that we're breaking furniture and making all kinds of ungodly racket and I can see how my mom, while she was like always on the edge of insanity with with me and my brother. Poor woman. But yeah, if you got brothers, siblings, and that's just what you did. Especially back then, there wasn't, if you didn't have any entertainment, you made your own entertainment, and that included wrestling.
Yep. And let's see, we got DJ Ronnie G.
I will tell you what, man, about wiping out on a bike, man. Like, I learned something, ever since getting, like, really seriously into, like, commuting on a bike and getting around. There's that moment, like, when, you, like, do something and you realize that there's no steering you can do to achieve, gain control. And it's on. You're gonna go flying. You gotta decide, basically, to jump off the bike. You're gonna fall. There's no avoiding it. Like, you just gotta fall gracefully or roll. And I don't know, I've been very fortunate. Like, I'm not, knock on wood, I'm not saying, never say never, as they say, but, like, I've been able to, like, fall in ways that work out for me. Like, there's a trick. You can't tense up your muscles. If you stiffen up too much, that's bad. That's why when people are drunk and they jump out a window, they tend to survive, oddly enough. But yeah, I just wanted to chime in.
Yeah, even getting car wrecks, they tend to survive more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was a king of shoulder rolls, so I figured out ways to, fall or, get in wrecks on bikes or whatever, even skateboards, without damaging myself. I've never broken a bone, knock on wood, but I've had my share of palm scrapes, leg rashes, knees are bleeding, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you can get up and walk away, you're good.
Any landing you can walk away from, it's a good landing.
Any car accident or wipeout you can walk away from feeling stupid is a good one.
Oh, you always feel stupid.
It was like,
if you do it right in front of people. I meant to do
when
that.
the brakes went up, I looked at my friend after I got up. I said, "That is never going to happen again." But he looks at me and he says, "Yeah, but I saw your brakes go out. I saw you apply your brakes, and then all of a sudden they just went out." And I'm thinking, "Oh shit, what do I do? What do I do to help him?"
Nothing. There's nothing you can do.
Nope.
Grab your popcorn and enjoy the show.
Mike, you okay? Oh,
no.
That's pretty much all I was. But I got up, grabbed my bike, and walked home. And that's when my parents saw me. They're all, "What the hell happened to you?"
You should see the other guy.
So what kind of shenanigans do you think we're gonna see on the Orville this season? Yes, we know things are probably gonna be a little, tense, but we know that we're gonna see some shenanigans from the crew.
Apologies, Mike. I seem to be having internet issues. I'm on my phone right now. I'm gonna just, if it's cool, I'll watch from the stream chat, and if it gets better, I'll rejoin the StreamYard.
Copy that, brother.
Apologies about that, but I'm looking forward to what DJ Ronnie is gonna say. Orville's great.
Hell yeah.
It is.
All right, I'll see you guys.
All right, man.
All right.
I mean, I just finished, I got, through the last season, and last I checked, they were in a mirror universe or an alternative timeline situation, something like that. So they got to either resolve that or end up in a new timeline. Who knows? I mean, they got some options. So they already wait. Did I wait? Am I? Do I have one more episode to watch before my season? I might have actually. I might have seen like everything but the last. Maybe I missed the finale. This would be great. I would love to watch a new Orville episode tonight.
Yeah,
the season finale of season 2 was The Road Less Taken.
So I thought I saw that. Well, I don't know if I saw. I'm gonna check, but if I didn't see that, maybe I thought I saw the last episode and didn't. But I would love to see that. I thought I saw it, but let me see. Okay, they went. I remember the beginning of the episode. They met up with the ragtag crew. Everyone was kind of like disassociated, and they were kind of getting back together.
Yeah, but that was the first episode, or of that storyline. Okay,
and I thought there was a cliffhanger, but maybe my memory is fuzzy. Sometimes I need to see stuff twice. So, worst case, I'll review it. But I'm just gonna check my library right now.
Oh, the last episode was so good. The Orville was at the bottom of the ocean. Do you remember that part?
Yeah, it sounds familiar. Yes, I do remember something like that.
They had to go get it.
And Bortus was the only one on board?
Yeah, Bortus was trapped on board. He couldn't get off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the last episode.
A bell. Okay, I did see that. It's like... So, there was something unresolved that... Okay, so, let's see here. 14 episodes. Was there 14 episodes of The Road Not Taken? That was like the last one. Would that be correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. So let me double check here. Okay, now it's ringing a bell, kind of. Wait a second. Did I finish this episode? Oh, I think I got something. Yo, I might have something in store for me tonight. All right. I don't... This does not look familiar.
It's like finding a $20 bill in your jacket.
Yeah, it really is. Oh, man. I don't know, man. I must have, had to work at 5 a.m. and... forgot, maybe fell asleep watching TV and then turned the thing off, but something's not adding up here. I'm afraid to skip too far ahead and ruin the episode, Oh.
Nah, don't do that. Just watch it again. It'll be all right. Just save it.
Yeah, I better just watch it again. But I might have seen it. I don't know. My memory is really fuzzy on this, but yeah, it's like finding a $20 bill. Let me tell you. So it's hard for me to really, make any real predictions until I see that. But I'm sure no matter what happens, I set low expectations from the beginning, but the difference was when I set low expectations for Discovery, it went lower, and Orville never did that to me.
I don't think it's going to do it this time. We do have some new cast members, which is going to be interesting. So they finally got a cast member for the helm. No, not the helm. With navigation, I guess.
Yeah,
oh, really?
Navigator.
And because what's the guy's name? Oh, why can't I'm never good with names. The guy that the engineer Lamar, yeah, he was the navigator at first, and then he went to engineering. And they never did actually replace him. So, and wasn't there somebody else in here in the new season also? A dude, I think, some new guy.
There might be new guest stars that we haven't seen in previous seasons, but I haven't heard anything yet.
Let me see.
I'm gonna look it up.
I mean, either way, I'm sure they will surprise us in a number of ways. And Bruce Willis. Anyway, was he on here yet?
Bruce Willis, He was the
Yeah.
voice of the plant.
Oh, okay, gotcha. That makes sense. Yep, I remember that.
I knew I recognized that voice. What? I forgot who that was.
And are they possibly going to give Yaphet a send-off, or did they do that already?
No, not
Norm
yet. But
Macdonald was able to record all his lines for season 3. We just don't know if there's going to be a season 4 and what
Wow.
they're going to do with Yaphet in season 4. If we do
Interesting.
indeed have a season 4.
Fascinating. Yeah, man. All right. Yeah, no, I mean, like, I can't go wrong. I mean, I still got to paint my Orville. I got the 3D print. I did, a lot of buffing on it, sanded it down, filled in the cracks, and it's looking pretty smooth right now. So I put a couple of coats of enamel paint on it. That thing is going to look Orville. Like, my biggest issue was I painted it in a metallic color, and it looked too silvery. In fact, I have the paint right here. Ooh, cramped in here. Hey, did everyone disappear? Oh, okay. Yeah. So I wasn't wearing my headphones. So, so I used this paint on my Orville, and it's like way too silvery. So, ultimately, I need a more neutral shade of gray instead of that. But other than that, I think it'll come out fine. It's just I don't want to repaint it 4 more times. I'd rather do the correct paint. So, I don't know. Like, what do you guys think? What color is the Orville? It's definitely... I don't think it's it looks kind of silver, but...
it's a dull gray. It's not silver. Silver's too shiny.
Mm-hmm. Way too shiny. Mm-hmm. So, I'm thinking, yeah, like you said, maybe a dull gray. So, maybe a flat gray, or I'll figure something out. I got a couple of ways of doing this. I basically made a point when I started painting, getting back in the Gundam model kits. I wanted to I got like a nice cheap airbrush, a nice cordless airbrush. It has like a little built-in pump, so you don't need to get like a whole entire freaking setup. And basically, acrylic paints are cool because, like, when I was brushing on the not acrylic, enamel paints are cool because the acrylics I was having a hard time with. They have some advantages. They don't emit fumes, so that's really cool. But enamel paints, like, they emit fumes, but they kind of like self-level. As you spread it on, it looks like it's lumpy, but then after like a minute or a couple minutes, it takes a long time to dry out. So the paint essentially levels out on its own and comes out nice and smooth. And that's basically how you'll get those models of cars with the realistic paint job on them. Many times they're using an acrylic paint, and so when everything's said and done, that stuff will be like hard. Sometimes like it takes like a couple of days to dry, and takes like an extra week for the paint to like set. But once it sets, it's like really just solid stuff, like really cool. So I don't know, I'm gonna do that, and then I gotta fight with my 3D printer again. I mean, it's been cooperating lately, so I probably don't have to fight with it, but I want to print out a bigger and better Orville. In fact, I think I have some pictures of the botched 3D print because I had like a bit of a journey with that one right there. Kept like wrecking it and all of that. I was trying to use a new 3D printing software to kind of like, I don't know, tweak it out a bit. But it really, I started watching it like, I watched a few episodes when it was relatively new, then I took a break. Then I revisited the entire series like back to back, like, every episode, and I felt really at home. I felt like I was watching some combination between TNG and TOS, and I just like, I don't care if it's a little different. I wasn't too picky. Like they set out to have a comedy and a Star Trek like show, and they made it their own at the same time.
Yep.
You could feel the influences of guys like Braga and whoever else was involved. And, they weren't trying to preach. And even when they got a little preachy, it was okay. Like Seth MacFarlane and his crew, they're allowed to have their own, stuff. They could spread a little bit of their own biases once in a while, as long as they don't ruin the show. And they didn't. I was quite satisfied.
No, I mean, when you first hear about the Orville and the premise, you're wary because you're not sure that a comedy sci-fi is going to work, even if it is produced by Seth MacFarlane. You're thinking there's no way this is going to work. Then you watch the first episode, you're going, all right, it's funny, but I'm seeing some familiar elements here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't like watching a Ghostbusters movie gone wrong, And it was very familiar, yeah.
You would be referring to that 2016 fiasco.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, I remember like a year or two before that movie came out, I don't know, there were all kinds of rumors kicking around. I think one person was saying that Judd Apatow guy would be involved, and that it would be like basically a series of Seth Rogen fart jokes. That did not sound very appetizing to me. And what we ended up getting was not any better, I guess they kind of made it their own. No, I didn't like it. Some people, they tried to have a reasonable opinion, and I respect that. They said, it wasn't that bad, I get it. You watch it with the kids, and, you don't take it too seriously. But, I mean, I wanted to be a fucking Ghostbuster when I grew up. Like, some people want to be firefighters. I wanted to be a Ghostbuster, and, they did it right. Maybe I don't know what it was that resonated. It's sort of like, they are like firefighters, basically. They're saving lives. Granted, nobody ever dies in Ghostbusters, but, they're helping people out. And I like that, looking out for people and shit, and making money, having fun while doing it. And this movie, 2016, they weren't making it their own enough. It's like, I can't fault the actresses completely. I know, on her own, that McCarthy lady, she's okay, I mean, I seen her do stuff where she was kind of like funny in her own right. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it just didn't work. They had so much latitude. They could have kept, like maybe an honorable send-off. I mean, they had Winston in it, for fuck's sake. And he was just her grandpa, something like that.
Her uncle, I think he was.
Mm-hmm. So, it's like he gave it a car. They could have done so many things, but either way, I mean, it's sort of like the Sonic movie. Somebody listened, or maybe the reviews were so bad that they had no choice but to do the right thing, so to speak. And they did all right with this new one, with the Afterlife movie.
Yeah, they did. I thoroughly enjoyed Afterlife, and I know there are some people that had their issues, and that's fine. We're not all going to agree. I know some people who don't care for the Orville, and that's fine. I'm not going to go out on social media or say the person, oh, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. I can't believe you don't like this show, or you don't like this movie, or you like this movie. No. I might ask them why, just to hear their answer, but I'm not going to berate them.
Absolutely. It's okay, for people to have their own grievances. If they don't berate me, I wouldn't berate them anyway, but, it's a two-way street.
Mm-hmm.
What
All
the
right.
heck?
All right, gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up because I have to get ready to see what Kenobi's all about. If it's worth watching.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't find my Orville 3D print, but apparently some months ago I was in the middle of 3D printing an Omega class destroyer from B5, basically a larger version of the one that I have in my hand right here. Basically, this is like the drive section. And what happened was I printed out so much support material around it, I think I ended up ripping the ship in half while removing it from the printer bed. So I gotta work on it, but I want to print out something like this, but bigger. And that's another topic for another day. I'll do a video if I ever get around to it. But this was a good radio show today, a good edition of Pop Talk. everyone who participated. I was listening for hours while working on some stuff I had to get done, and I'm glad I was able to drop in for the tail end.
Well, I do want to say that next Thursday at midnight Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific, I will be live giving a reaction to the episode, and then after the episode, I will be hopping over to the Nerdporeal Lifeform's channel, along with the Nerdporeal Lifeform and Spock's Friday Nights, and we will be giving our full reaction and review of the episode. So, if you don't want spoilers, don't watch. But if you watched it along with us, come on by, because I'm sure we're all going to have something to say about the first episode of The Orville in 3 years. I cannot wait.
Much too long, much too long.
Yes.
I'll look forward to it, and I'll make sure I watch the episode beforehand.
Yeah. That's what I recommend, and I'm going to bring it up one more time for anybody who might be on the fence. Now, I can't tell you how to spend your money. I'm not going to do that, but I'm just going to show you that they do have an option right now on Hulu. I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the chat. And, you know, if you can do it, do it. If you can't, I understand. I fully understand. And screen. But yeah, $1 for 3 months for those 3 months. So your first installment $1, next installment $1, then the installment after that $1. So $3. Not too shabby.
Yep. If you can't afford that, then go get a job.
And before I leave, thank you, DJ Ronnie G, for
My
being
pleasure.
on the panel. Thank you, Anono Mass, for being on the panel. I want to thank Spock's Friday Nights for being on the panel, and also the Admiral, the Nerdporeal Lifeform. And I also want to take time to thank you all in the chat. To add that shouldn't be, thank you very much. Spock's Friday Nights, thank you, brother. We also had DJ Ronnie G. We also had Brandon, the anime guy. It's nice to see you, brother. Don't be a stranger. You're always welcome to come on.
Zan Zoltan. Don't forget
Yes.
Zan.
I won't forget him. I just gotta scroll up to his name.
Oh, yeah.
He's a man from Argentina.
Zan Zoltan, thank you very much. Felix, also known as Star Wars Theology. Thank you, brother. And I cannot wait to see Top Gun Maverick. I cannot wait. I'm looking forward to that. And of course, the lovely Leia Rose. Thank you for stopping by, Leia. And let's see. Am I forgetting anybody else? I have done that before where I've forgotten somebody and I go, oh crap. I didn't say thank you to this person. Bill McCracken, thank you, brother.
Cash McCracken.
Yep. Justice for Star Trek 5, as he likes to say. Brandon Looney Tune Fans 2000, thank you, brother. And that's everybody that watched during the live stream and anybody that watches on the replay. Hope you like what you saw. If you liked what you saw, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Share out this stream with your friends. Leave a comment in the comment section below and subscribe to not only the PACIFIC414 YouTube channel, but to everybody here on the panel. I will make sure, if not tonight, tomorrow, that I have everybody's link in the description. But before I go, let me get Anonymous. Let me get your link in there.
Link me.
Link!
Zelda.
All right. 1 second. Let me just go ahead and scroll down. where I have you saved. There you are. And here we go. Copy. And I am now posted it in the chat. And it should be in the chat right about now.
YouTube doesn't like me.
They don't like any of us small content creators. That's why we have to help each other out.
There I am.
Interesting fact. I put a video up a few days ago of me like talking about my tortoise, holding my tortoise up, and it got like 100 people from the YouTube homepage. So I don't know if that's useful information in some way for playing the algo, but just something.
No,
to share in
it's
case.
animals. It's animals, dude. People like to watch animal videos. No joke.
So maybe if we slip an animal into our videos of other types, just an idea. I'm gonna work on something. I'm gonna do an experiment based on what you're saying.
Yeah, Brightest Day did that. He'd make a video about his cat, and he'd get like 2,000 views on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and get like 50 or 100 or something on his regular videos. So if you throw an animal in your video, they tend to, you may have to put it in the title too also, but YouTube will probably promote that because people like to watch animal videos.
I'm gonna try something out in that vein. I have a couple of ideas now.
Everybody, quick, grab your pet.
Yeah,
put them on camera for a little while.
Lucky me, I don't have any pets, so I'm screwed.
I don't want to wake him
up. Get a cute stuffed animal.
I go outside. Here, groundhog. Come on.
And here's a video of Anono Mass getting attacked by a groundhog.
I'm like, Punxsutawney Phil, leave me alone.
And he gets 1 million views out of that.
Oh, I better get rabies. I better get 1 million views.
Well, I'd rather have 1 million views than rabies.
Hell yeah.
I'd get rabies and still only get 5 views, so I'm not even gonna attempt it.
So with that being said, everybody, thank you for watching tonight's show. Really appreciate it. PACIFIC414 episode review will return next Thursday. It won't be immediately after the episode with the review, but you will get the reaction part live at least. The review will come later. So thank you all. Have a great night, and maybe the forces could be with us with Kenobi. Maybe not, but I'm about to find out. Take care, all.
The force is dead. Goodbye.